Recording in progress.
Dr. Lindsay. Are we ready to go? All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of the San Rafael City Council. Today is Monday, May 4th, and I'll request the city clerk to call the roll, please.
Councilmember Bushy is absent. Councilmember Hill.
Present.
Vice Mayor Kurtz.
Present.
Councilmember Yeden Scolati.
Present.
Mayor Kate.
Present. Thank you. We had a closed session prior to this meeting, and I'll invite the city attorney, Epstein, to report out.
Thank you, Mayor Kate. No reportable action was taken in closed session.
All right, well, good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for being here tonight, whether you're joining us in person or watching online. We appreciate your participation. We like to start our city council meetings by thanking our city staff. The work that goes into preparing for these meetings, community meetings, meetings that happen every day, delivering city services, and responding every day to the needs of our community is significant and often unseen. To all of our staff across every department, thank you for your dedication and service to San Rafael. I'd like to briefly acknowledge the proclamations included on tonight's consent agenda. The agendas are outside if you haven't seen it. While we recognize Mental Health Awareness Month in person this evening, we want you to know that every proclamation before us is worthy of recognition, from honoring public service and small businesses to celebrating a rich heritage and contributions of members of our community. We recognize the importance of public safety and preparedness efforts. These proclamations are important because they reflect what we value as a city. By including them on our agenda, in our agenda packet and public record, we recognize the people, causes, and community contributions that help shape who we are, not just tonight, but part of our civic story. And again, before we move into our meeting agenda, if you've attended a meeting, you know we also include a land acknowledgement. This statement complements the ongoing collaboration and work we do with the tribe. We thank the original caretakers of this land. San Rafael is traditionally home to the Coast Miwok people, many of whom today are tribal citizens of the Federated Indians of Great and Rancheria, and we honor their continuing involvement in stewardship practices that benefit us all. And now, I'll turn it over to the city clerk to share how the public can participate in tonight's meeting.
Thank you, Mayor Kate. Tonight's meeting is being recorded and streamed live to YouTube. For members of the public wishing to provide public comment, displayed on the podium and the projector is a timer to help you stay within your 2-minute time frame. You're invited, though not required, to introduce yourself and say what part of San Rafael you live in or if you're from outside of the city. Viewers may request a reasonable accommodation to provide public comments virtually. For more information about that, or if you're experiencing any technical difficulties, you can email me at city.clerk@cityofsanrafael.org. Thank you.
Thank you. We have open time for public expression at the start of our meeting. If you'd like to comment on a topic that is not on tonight's agenda, now is your opportunity. Welcome, and you're welcome but not required to say your name and what part of San Rafael you live in.
Yes, good evening, council members. My name is Ivan Glover. I live at Quail Hill. This is what I discovered as I was unaware of the planning procedures that had taken place. But this was in the newspaper on Friday. It shocked me. I'm an architect. I'm a real estate developer. Well, I was, all of the above. I'm almost 90. Been before this podium many years ago and many times. And I was shocked. And basically, what I'm here to say is that the Planning Commission, and if there is still a design review board, I do not know, But certainly the Planning Commission that voted unanimously for this is very weak. The fenestration is pathetic. It's like two big blocks with holes shot in it. We deserve better than that in San Rafael, much better. And I urge you to take a look. I went over the Planning Commission's roster. I think a third of them are missing. Not sure just how you justify some of the positions, but there's not many on there, and they've got to do a better job. When we can say that San Rafael, only the best is not good enough, I'll be happy. I go by this place, this location, on a regular basis. I fell out of the range, I think, of being notified. So be it. We're where we are.
Thank
I
you.
believe the council has the authority to overrule the Planning Commission.
Thank you for your
Very
comments.
difficult thing to do, and I doubt that it's going to happen. But I feel for the people who
Thank
are...
you. If you could wrap up. Your time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak during public open time? Thought I saw someone else coming down. Yep, go ahead.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Al Viteri, and I live in Gersel Park. 2 months ago, I was in a meeting, and you were talking about the Police Advisory Council and the, I don't even know what they were described as, something called RIPA. And I looked up RIPA, and I was like, oh, this is a system designed so people don't judge others on how they appear. And I was like, oh, that's probably a good idea. And I, as you know, I walk around town a lot. I like walking around San Rafael. I enjoy the city, especially this time of the year. The flowers are beautiful, the neighbors are beautiful. But I was walking along, sunny day, sky was beautiful, the sun, this orange over East Bay. And I was standing there, and all of a sudden, a tricycle starts passing me. And on the tricycle is a what you call a wagon behind it, like a little dump truck, and an old fellow on there. And I said, God, that guy looks like a homeless person. And I'm like, oh no, I shouldn't judge somebody by that. And as this person passes me, on the back of the vehicle, on the is all these tin cans and stuff that is collected from all over the place. And I go, well, that's obviously a homeless person. And that didn't surprise me. But on the very, very back of it, where you would put like a spare tire on a Jeep or something, I see this 5-foot-long bolt cutter. And I'm saying, God, what would a homeless person do with a 5-foot bolt cutter? And I was like, I know what I should do right now, but I really don't want to get arrested. And I thought, isn't it my civic responsibility to grab that damn thing and take it away from him, because we kind of know what's going to happen with it? My time is up.
Any other comments before we move into the next item? Not seeing any, I'll close the open time for public expression and move into the city manager and council member reports. City Manager Paul Navazio, you're up.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Just a few items to note this evening. Actually, let me start with, you referenced the proclamations that are on tonight's agenda, and I wanted to pass along information provided by our police chief, Dave Spiller, that he and some members of the San Rafael Police Department command staff will be in Washington, D.C. Next week to participate in a ceremony honoring a fallen city of San Rafael Township night watchman and constable, Dennis Haley, who actually was killed in the line of duty believe it or not, about 140 years ago, in 1884. The kind of cool part about this, if you may, is one of the department's retired corporals, Harry Barbieri, kind of took it upon themselves to do a bunch of research and piece together some of the history and the information related to this. Once the puzzle of what happened to Night Watchman Haley was kind of put together, they submitted an application to the National Memorial for Officers in Washington, D.C., and they're very, I guess, heartened to have their application for Dennis Haley to be recognized in Washington, D.C. at the National Memorial, and they'll be in D.C. on May 13th for that solemn but positive occasion. I just wanted to share that with the council. On a lighter note, a couple of announcements. I did not know this, but May is National Water Safety Month, and partially to commemorate that, there will be a free water safety day at Terra Linda Pool on Sunday, May 17th from 1 to 4 p.m. This is being put on by our recreation program staff in partnership with the American Red Cross, Marin County Parks, as well as San Rafael Police and Fire. Swimming, water safety, demonstration, CPR demo. So we just encourage the community to not only come out and partake of the festivities, but just a reminder of the importance of water safety, both in our community and our surrounding areas. I think I'll just leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor.
Thank you. It's been a bit busy. So I attended the Marin Wildfire Forum where the CWPP, which is the Community Wildfire Protection Plan, was reviewed. And it really is open right now for community input. What's really fascinating is that, not really fascinating, but it's a great tool. You could put in your address and find out how it ranks in terms of severity, and then you could put in another area. So I put in my home address and looked at it, and then I compared it to, say, Nicasio and the differences. And so this report is required, I believe, it's state, but I believe also federal requirement to do this CWPP. And it's a really important document that you can look at in terms of all the different areas of priority. So I hope everyone in the council has an opportunity to look at that, to provide feedback, and thank you to the fire department for the work that they've done in preparing the San Rafael component. I attended the Quail Hill Homeowners Association, lots of questions around developments. Thank you to the Library and Recreation Department and the Golden Heirs for their celebration for 85 and plus members of our community. It was a full house, and Alma Via was one of the major sponsors for that. But a lot of great energy in the room, and thanks to the Golden Heirs and to Age Friendly San Rafael. And I attended the Marin Community History Day at Boyd House, and Heather Sherarden got together all the different organizations across the county representing Marin's history, and it was fascinating to see it all come together in one location. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Yorenz Galati.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended on April 21st. It was we were celebrating Earth Day a day earlier. It was the Climate Week Forum and Open House, and I really want to give a huge thank you to Corey Bitov and our climate action team, our sustainable team for the city of San Rafael. It was very well attended, and a special thank you to Miles Smith from Sustainable San Rafael. We had so many young people, and it was really nice to see people from all age groups, and we had students from Marine Academy, from Terra Linda High School. Sustainable San Rafael Youth has students from different high schools as well. UC Berkeley was presenting a very interesting project on sea level rise. There was like art around sustainability, Laurel so it was very well attended, and I'm really grateful. This was part of the Climate Week Forum that happens in San Francisco every year, and again, really grateful for the participation and for all the knowledge and passion that exists in our community from people that really care about the climate. So, so that was my highlight. Also, I attended the Baccalaureate Rising Recovery Center open house, and Councilmember Hill was there as well. And that's so important to have like a space in Marin County for mental crisis. So, and it's such a beautiful space. So I was very impressed, actually. I also attended this morning the Marine Transit board meeting, and after that one I attended the MC Clean Energy Executive Committee meeting. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Hill.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 3 meetings to report in addition to the Buckaloo opening, which, by the way, is really critical to our community for folks who are suffering from co-occurring instances of both mental health and substance abuse. It's critical that those beds are available because the closest ones were San Francisco and then way north. So thank you to the Buckaloo for getting this done. My first meeting to report is on Tuesday, April 21st, with the Economic Development and Housing Subcommittee with Mayor Kate. Several topics that included proposed special event sponsorship policy framework, as well as framework and timing for the next City Council Housing Study Session. On Sunday, April 26th, I represented the City of San Rafael at the Youth Town Hall at the Marin Civic Center Board of Supervisors Chamber, where teenagers, mostly, it's actually 12 to 25, could come out and ask questions of all the municipalities that came out to represent. This is my 3rd year doing it. I feel that our future, at least represented by these folks, is very well in hand. They asked very probing and critical questions about all the topics that are important to them, which mostly mirror what's in front of us, but there were topics that also came up that were not in front of us. They also were interested in how to gain access to their representatives in a more informed way, and we went at that very deeply. It was very encouraging. And then on Thursday, April 30th, at the Ritter Center Under the Stars event, Vice Mayor Kurtz, to my right, was awarded as the 2026 Community Impact Honoree. She serves on the Homeless Policy Steering Subcommittee, the San Rafael Homelessness Subcommittee, and has participated in every point in time count that I can remember. She is accelerating journeys out of homelessness and slowing them down into homelessness. So thank you, Mayor Kurtz, and you are honored.
Thank you, and I'll close out reporting what I've been up to in addition to what you've all been up to. So Earth Day, thank you to Corey Bidoff and DPW and the BID for organizing cleaning our downtown, literally cleaning it on Earth Day. Special shout out to DPW because one of the tasks was mulch, and those bags ended up being really, really heavy. So there was an emergency call to DPW to help to disperse those through the downtown. So thank you for helping out with that. I had the honor of speaking at the Federation of Neighborhood and Point San Pedro Coalition listening session. Folks just want to have an opportunity to share what was on their mind and maybe propose some solutions. Some people did. Some people are like, this is tough stuff. So it was a great conversation. Look forward to more conversations with that group. Been out and about on, we call them Mayor Kate's walkabouts. And literally, we walk around, this time with Stacy Lauman, who's in the Economic Development Department. We walk downtown 4th Street, walk in, introduce ourselves to the business owners or who's there. We have a little leave behind and ask them how business is going. And I have to tell you, we probably talked to 40 different businesses, and people are excited about what's coming. And it was quite heartening and optimistic. And if you haven't been to Artistry Studios, let me tell you, wow, it is gorgeous in there, and double rainbows in there. So go and poke around at the great stuff that we have downtown. I am your representative on the Transportation Authority of Marin, also known as TAM. We had a really, really big agenda last week. We approved the crossing guard locations. We know that crossing guards are integral and important to all the jurisdictions in Marin County. There's always more need than there are guards or resources, so the board, in working with the jurisdictions, finalized that list. In addition, we talked about grant funding that is out there, something called OBAG 4. There's going to be $13.5 million available to Marin County. I know DPW is all over that. Somerville's traditionally competed very, very well in those OBAG grant cycles, so we're always looking for those because they help us with infrastructure that we want to build in our community. In addition, you might have read it in the IJ, we approved an AI, artificial intelligence policy. I think this is something that will come to a lot of different agencies. And we approved the policy, and then we had a discussion of a pilot. It was called the Lincoln Avenue Corridor Study AI Pilot. So Lincoln Corridor is right over that way towards the 101. And so there was a consultant that did a pilot study, so it doesn't mean that it doesn't obligate us to any work or implementation of what they put forward, but they were able to do it in a matter of days and for under $15,000, which often a study of that size can take months and costs over $150,000. So the future is here when it comes to transit and infrastructure planning, and how do we make sure that we have the right decisions being made and that we have the human element, which is so important, still incorporated. So we had a very robust discussion about that after we had the pilot. In terms of Somerville specifically, our ED, our executive director, shared that through NEVI, which is an acronym for the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure, Marin Square, which is in District 1, so over in the southern part of Somerville, is going to receive 6 public electric DC chargers for cars through this program. So being that we always want to enhance our infrastructure, our EV infrastructure, that is a competitive grant, and delighted that we received those. And then finally, as you know, we participate as a city in the Gun Safety Collaborative. I participate, as does Chief Spiller. And there will be a campaign starting on around 988 and 988. And you'll see, we're going to hear in a moment from the mental health proclamation. But it's a number that anyone can call when they're in crisis. So they'll be doing a campaign in June to try to have more people know about 988 and provide that resource to our community. So stay tuned on that. So as always, there's a lot going on off of the dais in between meetings, and we always appreciate the opportunity to share with the community what's going on. And if people are so inclined, they can go and dig deeper and learn more about what we were talking about. Before we move to the consent agenda, we do take public comment, and that's on anything that you just heard from the city manager to any of our council member reports. If you would like to comment, now is your opportunity to do so. I don't see anyone racing down, so I'll close the public comment and bring it back. Oh, I'm sorry, I was too quick. Come on down, and you're invited but not required to say your name, and
Thank you.
go
Craig
ahead.
Murray, 260 Marydale. Here talking about 350 Marydale, not on the agenda. Is this a time for items not on the agenda?
So we had that already at the meeting, but
Okay.
we
Well,
also have open time for public expression at the end of the meeting.
Okay,
So-
maybe I could talk on the mental health issue item.
Oh, that would be great.
that's
Go
on the
ahead.
Agenda. So the concern about the relocation center is you'll have unhoused and unhinged people. Unhoused, certainly, it's clear, but unhinged folks in the neighborhood and expecting the neighbors to kind of deal with this as kind of first responders is a little bit on the irresponsible side, and something that really needs to be filtered. If it's truly a location for people that will be housed, it should be housed. If folks do have mental health issues, then those hopefully were vetted first before they go to a relocation center for housing. So that's the request tonight, at least in terms of the mental health part, is that the city develop a really robust program to deal with the unhoused and also particularly the unhinged folks. And I think we pretty much know when folks are unhinged on the streets, or when we have to interact with them and call the police, and the non-emergency number 485-3000. Anyway, I appreciate council's assistance and putting some effort towards that, and really directing energies to make sure that we're dealing truly with the unhoused population. Thank you.
Any other comments on the city manager or council member reports? Okay, not seeing any comments on that. I will close the public comment and move to the consent agenda. Are there any items that my colleagues would like to hold from the consent agenda? Not seeing any. I will open up to public comment on the consent calendar. That's items 2A through 2J. If you'd like to comment on any of those items, now is your opportunity. And you're welcome, but not required to say your name and what part of San Rafael you live in.
Good evening, Mayor Cade and members of the council. I'm Sue Burrell, and I live in Gerstle Park, and I'm here tonight as a board member of San Rafael Heritage.
My name is Laura Ackley, and I live on Laurel Hill, and I'm an architectural historian also on the board of San Rafael Heritage.
My name is Amesha Wood.
Go over to the microphone so we can catch what you're saying. Thank you.
Amesha Wood is my name. I live in Gerstle Park, and I'm also involved with San Rafael Heritage.
We're here tonight to talk about item J on the consent calendar, which is the Preservation Award that San Rafael Heritage has given to the San Rafael Public Library. And this is to do with the 2024-25 renovation of the library. It could have been a renovation that just focused on fixing the HVAC system and the leaky roof and bringing the bathrooms up to ADA compliance. But the renovation went far beyond that, and it really was done in a manner to very closely resemble the original 1909 Carnegie building, and using in subtle and not so subtle ways. The metal shelving that was real tall was taken down, wooden bookshelves were put in, the use of lighting and paint helped to create the original atmosphere of the Carnegie Library. And this was done also while at the same time making it, in a very modern way, a more comfortable library with good places to sit and places to display art and ceramics. And it was just a terrific job. And it just seemed, to San Rafael Heritage, it seemed really momentous, given that when Measure P is fulfilled, we open the new Albert Park Library, we're still going to keep the Carnegie Library. So it's a really wonderful thing for the community to have it resemble the original Carnegie as we move into the future.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Do either of you also want to make comments?
Thank you, Sue. I just wanted to reiterate the point of us being here is to kind of solemnize the fact that San Rafael Heritage gave our annual preservation award to the library staff at the city of San Rafael for the renovation, the thoughtful, historically sensitive renovation of the Carnegie. So we're here to get them officially recognized in front of the city council. Thank you.
Thank you. You want to make it? Oh, no, you're good. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Any other comments on the consent agenda? And then please let us know what item 2.
Sure. This is regarding the proclamation for the San Rafael Fire Foundation.
Yes,
My name is Dave Fonkelsrud, and I'm honored to serve on the Fire Commission, which is different from the Fire Foundation. But over the course of the time that I've been on the Fire Commission, I've seen the foundation do some pretty amazing things that I think most residents of San Rafael probably have no idea what they're doing in support of our firefighters and first responders. So the proclamation really says everything, but I think some of the key things to me that I'm seeing and that really hit home is that the foundation is really a way for the public to get involved in supporting first responders in San Rafael. So there are a variety of different volunteer opportunities. They do some fundraising, and all that money goes back into support some of the things that are not funded for the fire department. Things like the drone that we're now using to support the tactics for addressing major fires. In fact, the big fire that we had in the canal was also supported by the fireboat that was funded through the Fire Foundation. So there really are some things that are very supportive of our public safety in San Rafael that make the San Rafael Fire Department a Class 1 fire department that are all funded through the foundation. So I just wanted to rise in support of the foundation, all the great work that they're doing, and especially a nod to Carrie McClellan, who's here tonight, under whose leadership we've really seen so many great more things to happen at the foundation. So thank you very much for the proclamation. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And speaking of,
Nice introduction. I'm Carrie McClellan, and I live in Peacock Gap, and I'm not going to repeat all the wonderful things that the commissioner just said, but I wouldn't be here but not for the people that came before me creating this organization. And I think it's really important to acknowledge John Chu, Jonathan Freeman, Merritt Hewitt Jr., Pat Kendall, Stephen Misrock, Leonard Thompson, and Thomas Weathers. Those individuals were really the first iteration and the ones who created this organization. And then there are people here tonight that, like myself, are continuing the work, and it's Darush Davidi, as well as Jeff Kramer and Stephen Roth. Not here today, Dr. Jordan Sachs, who's a member of the department, and Jack Devlin. And so we're honored to do the work and happy to continue it, but not for these people that came before us, we wouldn't be here. So thank you so much. I appreciate the recognition and the proclamation, and we'll keep at it.
thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else like to comment on the consent calendar? Okay, not seeing anyone, and thank you to the foundation folks. I'm hoping we can get a photo. There's going to be a break in a little bit, so sit tight if you're a foundation person. We will definitely have a photo with the council, but appreciate all the work that you've been doing. So, Vice Mayor, I know you're going to make a motion, qualified motion.
I'd like to make a motion of the consent calendar. I'm going to abstain from 2A and move the remaining number of items from B through J.
And a second.
Okay.
Is that okay?
It's not necessary. You're welcome to still vote. You're voting not for the accuracy of the minutes or your presence in the meeting, but instead the accuracy of the secretary's minutes from the meeting. It's your call. You're welcome to
The
abstain.
lovely minutes. Thank you.
We'll go ahead and take a vote on items 2B through 2J. There's been moved and seconded.
No, I think we're going to go through to it.
Oh, you're going to include it?
Yes.
After all?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll go
Well, then
to-
we'll do the entire consent agenda. Thank you for that
you.
clarification. It's been moved, and Councilman Micah, your second still holds? Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hill.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Kurtz.
Aye.
Councilmember Eden Scalati.
Aye.
Mayor Kate.
Aye, that motion carries 4-0. So we talked about special presentations, and the first one that we're going to have, we have many proclamations, but the first one that we'll actually do in person is in recognition of Mental Health Awareness Month in Marin County. We are presenting this proclamation because we know that mental health is an issue throughout the community for both housed and unhoused folks. So I'm going to read the proclamation, and then I would welcome Rick Hess to come to the podium after I've spoken to say a few words. You can introduce yourself at that time and appreciate the work you've done. So, whereas mental health challenges are one of the most common health conditions in California, with 1 in 3 children and 1 in 6 adults experiencing severe mental illness, impacting both the persons experiencing the challenges as well as those who care for the people facing the challenge. And whereas mental health impacts a person's emotional, social, environmental, financial, and overall well-being, with significant disparities among racially and ethnically diverse communities. And whereas health and human services, behavioral health and recovery services, which are all at the county, and its partner organizations are committed to creating an integrated, equitable mental health service model that provides early intervention that can effectively change the outcome of a mental health condition. And there are a series, so by hosting, those organizations are hosting a series of May mental health countywide events and creating awareness of the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline that I'd actually mentioned earlier. And whereas prevention is an effective way to address the impact of mental health conditions, and with early and effective evidence-based treatment, individuals with mental health conditions can recover and lead full productive lives. And therefore be resolved, the City of San Rafael recognizes May 2026 as Mental Health Awareness Month to enhance public awareness of mental health and help end the stigma. Rick, thank you for being here. If you want to say a few words, we would welcome them.
Thank you so much, Mayor Kate. And I wish in Marin had the same commitment that you have to this major issue in our society. I was going to start with some data. I worked for Larry Ellison, the king of data, for 19 years. So I tend to look at numbers. But you just said some really staggering numbers. 1 in 6 American adults has or has had a mental health challenge. And the definition is a major mental health challenge. 1 in 3 youth and adolescents in this country has experienced a mental health challenge. In this country, every year, 25,000 people take their lives. And statistic that may not be as well known is that 3 of 4 of those wonderful people that take their lives are men or boys. For each suicide in this country, there are 5 attempts each year. So that means that 125,000 people are taking their lives, are attempting to take their lives in this country. So why me? I am yet another Silicon Valley guy, had a wonderful career, but like many of us, I had some mental health challenges along the way. And, you know, I've got white privilege written all over me. And so it's very easy to just push it all behind work, become a workaholic, and not deal with those problems. But when I retired early, I experienced some significant mental health challenges, and I almost lost my life twice. And after that happened, I decided to commit my life to getting to people that are in a mental health crisis and letting them know that there's help to recover and there's hope to recover. And I can assure you, when you're in the middle of that crisis, you don't think you can get better. So I have ended up on the board of directors of multiple organizations here in Marin, and you probably all know NAMI. It's the nation's leading nonprofit with a mission to help people with mental health crisis and their families to cope. I'm also on the board of the ERC, which is the largest peer-to-peer support program here in Marin. And the county blesses us with about $750,000 a month. I'm sorry, a year. I wish it were a month. And we have about 8 employees, and they are delivering wonderful peer support programs each and every day. The message of hope was something that my guardian angel, district nurse back in Virginia, kept saying to me when she found out that I was sick. Rick, I want you to hold on, H-O-P-E, hold on. The pain ends or eases. And when somebody that you really believe in tells you that, even though, again, you don't feel like you can believe it, you start to think, well, maybe I can get better. So I just want to share a few events that are coming up. Actually, this Friday happens to be my birthday. And at 7 a.m., I'm going to be, 7 a.m., I'm going to be presenting to the Marin County police officers. And the topic will be how to identify behavior as a mental health condition. And this state, like so often is the case, has taken a lead in this issue. Unfortunately, on civil matters, we're not as far along. And I've seen cases where, you know, individuals are sued for behavior for millions of dollars. And so we need to make advances in that area. Next Thursday, the 14th, we'll be holding an event at the College of Marin. It's the Men and Boys Suicide Collaboration. How many of you know Kara Connors? To know Kara is to love her, right? And I've been a key part of her collaboration now for about 4 years. It's from 6 to 7:30, and a handful of us from very different demographics. I'm the old white guy, but we have the young Latino and another wonderful man of color who will be sharing their story. You mentioned, Kate, the different backgrounds, and and I know, again, I had great health care when I started to get sick. Although I was with Kaiser Permanente, and I will tell you, there are a lot of other ways to get help when you're in a mental health crisis, and that's something that NAMI does. So, I just want to thank you for this opportunity, and I'm proud. I don't know, have I been timed?
No, you're fantastic.
Okay.
Well, we appreciate you accepting the proclamation, sharing your story, and I know the city's newsletter actually had a bunch of links to activities, and I think there's also online Marin County. I'm trying to think what the website is. If people want to follow up on what you've mentioned, they can do that.
Wonderful.
So,
thanks again.
thank you so much. And it is my pleasure that we have another in-person. This is a resolution of appreciation to Public Service Award recipient. And before we present it and share who that person is, and then we have a recess and there are cupcakes. I mean, you guys picked a great meeting to come to. You're learning all about the different things going on in our community. First, I want to just talk about what this award is. So we are appreciative, and it was on the consent agenda. And I will just read it out of the, if I can find it, the O'Brien family. Can't find him. I'm looking at it. O'Brien and Rick O'Brien, their son, is part of the selection committee, as are member of the city council. Was it Councilmember Hill? Were you the one this year?
I did.
Oh, Vice Mayor was it this year, as well as folks from the community. And it's recognizing someone in our community who's gone above and beyond. And I have to tell you, I had already mentioned someone had received it last year, and these folks quietly go about their work in a really passionate way. So we really like to have added suspense. So I'm going to ask the council to join me down in front of the dais where I'll make the announcement. I really feel like there should be a drum roll, but here, I'll come over here. I'm just going to get right to it because we really want to honor this person and embarrass the heck out of them for all the incredible work they've been doing. Carla Valdez, please join me down here. Okay, stand here for a moment. There is a lot written here, and I'm going to read it all because what you've been doing is incredible. Whereas, and it's written in that whereas format. So whereas Carla Valdez is a dedicated community leader and an active civic participant in San Rafael. You serve on the San Rafael Police Advisory and Accountability Committee. You volunteer 3 times a week at the Marin Community Clinics Food Bank. You have faithfully served there for 5 years. And whereas Carla has also volunteered with the Raising a Reader program from 2021 to 2025, where she read to children under the age of 5 and created engaging activities that promoted early literacy and lifelong love of learning. And we know how that sets up students for lifelong success. Whereas since 2009, Carla has been actively involved with Vecinos del Canal, a community group focused on improving conditions in the Canal neighborhood, where she helped successfully advocate for changes to the city's street sweeping enforcement practices to end the disproportionate impacts of vehicle towing on economically burdened residents. Again, one of those unintended impacts. which something straightforward like street sweeping, but it had real impacts. Whereas through her leadership, Carla and fellow community members organized monthly neighborhood cleanups, helping to maintain a clean and safe environment while fostering shared responsibility and pride in the community. And whereas Carla continues her advocacy through her involvement with the Marin Organizing Committee, supporting efforts to improve youth mental health services, there's a theme here this evening, and by participating in city housing workshops to better understand and share important information about local housing policies. And whereas through her trusted relationships and deep community connections, Carla serves as a vital resource for residents, regularly connecting individuals and families to critical services, programs, and opportunities, including food assistance, holiday support, and city initiatives. And whereas Carla's work has resulted in meaningful and lasting impacts from advancing equitable policy changes and strengthening community trust, to promoting early childhood education and improving access to essential resources for underserved populations. And whereas Carla's dedication, compassion, and resilience are evident in your lifelong commitment to service, including overcoming language and cultural barriers to become a strong and effective advocate, while also raising her children with the same values of civic engagement and community care. And whereas Carla Valdez's tireless efforts, leadership, and unwavering commitment to uplifting her community exemplify the highest ideals of public service and of this award. Therefore, let it be resolved that the San Rafael City Council expresses our appreciation to Carla Valdez on behalf of her community and award you the Richard O'Brien and the Mary Ferraro O'Brien Public Service Award for 2026. And you can see why I read all of that, because standing next to me is a superhero, which you might have not known until I read all of that. Congratulations. The mic is yours. No? Yeah, here's your chance.
Okay. I think I'm really passionate about helping my community. And I think when people, like for example, in meetings see someone like me, they probably feel like more comfortable attending. So I think that's why I do this work, so more people can participate. Yeah, thank you.
We're so glad that you do. Thank you. And we'll do a photo, and then maybe family members might want to come down for a photo too. I recognize some of those people.
And now we'll recess for cupcakes.
Thank you. Are we recording again? All right, so that was a recess that we had to celebrate, and now we're going to get to some public hearings that we have. Our first one that we have this evening is 770 Lindaro Street, 999 3rd Street, the BioMarin San Rafael campus, and I will turn it over to Director Hinkle to introduce this item.
Good evening, Mayor Kate and council members. My name is Micah Hinkle. I'm the Community Economic Development Director, and joining me this evening is consulting planner Sean Kennings. It was really fortunate for us to actually have Sean Kennings come back and support this project with BioMarin, as he was actually worked on prior teams with the BioMarin development agreement. So having some of the familiarity of the development agreement, the different pieces associated with it and the amendments was really helpful for this. And with that, I'll have Sean actually walk through the DA amendments that are before you tonight, and we'll take it from there. So thank you so much.
Good evening, Mayor Kate and members of the council. I'm Sean Kennings with LAK Associates, contract planner, and I think I'm going to be able to get my presentation here. Tonight's hearing is about the first amendment to the BioMarin development agreement. The city and BioMarin entered into a development agreement in 2020, Ordinance 1982, permitting the phased development of the San Rafael Corporate Center and the 999 3rd Street property, which was proposed for the laboratory and R&D buildings. In that development agreement, there were several things of which BioMarin is asking to be removed in the amendment. That is the public access to Mahone Creek Park, public access to conference facilities, and the removal of temporary public parking at the 999 3rd Street. To date, BioMarin has completed over $16 million in public benefits, including the soil remediation of the property, land donation, and several traffic improvements. This is a slide showing the property boundary. On the lower right-hand side is the corporate center with the main BioMarin buildings. In the top left is the vacant 999 3rd Street parcel. It's about 18.5 acres. It's in the downtown mixed-use general plan area. It has a PD and the T5 50/70 zoning district. BioMarin has been around for 30 years. It's one of the biggest employers in downtown San Rafael. The original PD 1721, was approved for the Fair Isaac Corporation for about 400,000 square feet in 1998. In 2013, BioMarin moved their headquarters to the corporate center and accumulated approximately most of the area, but was not the sole tenant. They completed one of their first lab buildings in 2015, 791 Lincoln, and they also purchased the 999 3rd Street parcel from PG&E. They worked towards their entitlement package, resulting in the approval of the 999 3rd Street project and the development agreement that was adopted with a 10-year vesting program. It should be noted in 2023, the Vivalon Eden housing project was completed and is no longer part of the project area. As part of the development agreement, they had a 10-year vesting program with several public benefits, including substantial improvements and community contributions. It froze the fees, the development impact fees at the 2020 rates, and it had specific development milestones established. To date, of those benefits that they've already delivered, the soil remediation that I mentioned, the donation to Whistle Stop Eden Housing for their project, donation for fees for traffic light synchronization, shuttle service, a lease for Whistle Stop to house their vehicles, and additional pedestrian safety infrastructure improvements. Public benefits that still remain are the requirement for retail space in the 999 3rd Street buildings at 3rd and Lindaro, including also a public plaza at that location. The continue for surface lot parking at the corporate center. And I'll make a note in the staff report, I included the word garage. There's no public parking in the garage on weekends and evenings, only on the surface lot. And then they have a upcoming milestone to do bike lane striping for Class 2 bike lane on Lindaro from 3rd Street to Anderson. So what they're asking for in this First Amendment, the requirements being removed is the Mahone Creek Park access. That's at the rear, the south part of the corporate center, and the rationale being that the security and operational concerns at an active laboratory campus make public access impractical. They're asking for the removal of the requirement for the conference facility. Now that they're a single tenant, they require security and they have limited public utilization. They have scheduling conflicts with their lab operations and their employees, and there are other public meeting spaces available downtown. And lastly, they're removing the requirement for temporary public parking at 999 3rd Street because the city no longer needs that property for staging area. The project is consistent with the 2040 general plan, and it also has a CEQA exemption, the general rule exemption, because the amendment does not authorize any new development, does not change the building envelopes, does not increase density or intensity, and has no physical impact on the environment. The project was noticed in accordance with San Rafael guidelines, and to date they've had substantial comments from the Toastmasters in Marin, and also last week we received comments from bicycle organization, the WTB TAM, requesting the improvements on Lindaro, that BioMarin be obligated to complete those. And with that, the staff recommendation is that the council introduce the ordinance approving the First Amendment, but you can approve with modifications, deny or direct staff to return with findings, or to continue the item. And with that, that's my presentation.
And if I could just add, during the Planning Commission hearing, there were some comments really from Toastmasters, and I did ask that economic development staff outreach Toastmasters and look at other options for them in terms of hosting their meetings. And that outreach was made, and there are some other venues that are available. Does it really meet the Toastmasters' needs? To be determined, but just recognizing that type of space in that particular organization, there are other options that are available to them. So, but I didn't want to make that effort to even support, at least the support of Toastmaster. So, and that completes staff's presentation.
Thank you. I'll see if there are any questions. Councilmember Micah, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you for the report, and thank you, BioMarin, for everything that you are bringing to our cities. It's really great to have you here. My question is around the bike lane that was initially proposed, and so can you speak a little bit around that? The plan doesn't include to add the bike lane that initially was proposed.
So as part of the DA terms, there actually is an option to basically provide the bike lane or provide for the city to actually add the bike lane components or a cost pricing issue. BioMarin has actually submitted that request to staff currently. We are analyzing to see what it's either provide the bike lane through BioMarin's construction, or BioMarin can actually pay for funds to support 1 mile bike lane within the city. This is part of the DA term. So we're still working with BioMarin on implementation of that particular DA term, but that is scheduled to be done this year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hill.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Director Hinkle, and thank you for the report so far. This is going to fundamentals. Can you describe, for a layperson, what is a development agreement generally?
So when a development agreement typically is when you have a larger project that may be phased over a period of time. It could be due to assemblage of land or staffing or phasing of the construction. You're not quite sure exactly. You're not going to be able to get all your entitlements or your building permits in like the first year. And so for the original corporate center, it was going to be a long project. It wasn't going to be built all at one time. And so it's an agreement between the developer and the city. Effectively, we want a longer run out for our timing. In exchange, we'll give you something so that we can lock in our development fees, our traffic impact fees, our mitigation fees at today's rates, knowing that 10 years from now, we're going to come back with phase 3 or phase 4. And so typically the agreement is we're giving you, the city's giving you that ability to phase your project, so you have to give us, the city, something in return. And so the original benefits, at the time, 25 years ago, there was the creation of the park at the rear at Mahone Creek. There was multiple tenants, so that there was the opportunity to have conference room allocation for outside groups. Those things are no longer part of sort of the program. If you think about from BioMarin's perspective, they're a single tenant, they have security needs, they have staffing needs, they have laboratory requirements. It's just too difficult to provide those options now.
Thank you. And I know it was in the staff report and it was in your presentation. Would you characterize that, just to repeat, that not only have they met all of their agreed upon commitments, would you say that any of the commitments that they made were exceeded materially?
I mean, I think the remediation of the 999 3rd Street parcel in and of itself is pretty amazing, that there was a significant environmental impact there, and they cleaned up the dirt there. They provided the housing opportunity for the Eden Housing Project. I think BioMarin has done significant improvements and benefits to the city.
Could I ask that, it wasn't in the development agreement, but the fact is that, you know, because the pandemic happened after the agreement was put in place, but that in my viewing of what they've done, they have brought a lot of employees to the city and a lot of back to work that has created a positive impact to our downtown businesses. Would you say that that's true?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just have a question about the conference room availability, and it makes sense for all the reasons that you talked about, so maybe it's just more for staff, because one thing we have been hearing from community groups, Toastmasters, and there are others, I know the Federation, the listening session I went to, they had to rent Falkirk, but maybe it's something for the council to consider. Is there a way that city subsidizes to have neighborhood or community groups use meeting spaces? Because I know that BioMarin was really generous with that, and I think the attraction was, I think it was for no cost, or just, it was a really minimal cost. So it's not about this specific item before us, but it is a query to staff. I mean, there is a need out there, and I don't know what role the city plays, and I don't think necessarily is answered tonight, but I've been hearing a lot of those comments.
I think the only response I would give is we're aware of the need, and it's probably more than a one-size-fits-all answer. So I think our challenge is to look at all the opportunities to meet the various needs that are out there.
Absolutely, in a way that's fair. Okay, thank you. I don't see any other questions from the council right now, so I'll open it up to public comment. If you'd like to comment on this item, now is your opportunity. And you're invited but not required to say your name and what part of San Rafael you live in.
Richard Falk, Loch Lomond. So one suggestion on this last topic that you talked about for facilities, for communities, is the public schools have some facilities, multi-use rooms and things of that nature. And I know that our own board of directors meetings and annual meetings and so on utilize that. And for the really small meetings that are infrequent or whatever, we have a negotiation where we don't have to pay full board, and then when we do the annual meeting, we pay a big full board and have more people and so on. So there's flexibility already inherent in that kind of thing. I don't know if it would work exactly for, you know, Toastmasters and the other groups, but that's something just to consider, because I know they definitely have those facilities. The only downside with them is that the scheduling is a little tricky, so they may not be able to have it exactly on the same time every month like they would be used to, but and there's something about it, I think it closes during the summer sometimes or something like that. So anyway, just a thought.
Thank you. Any other comments on this item? I don't see anyone, so I'll close the public hearing and bring it back for comments. Go ahead, Councilmember Micah.
No, I just wanted to mention again, I'm really appreciative of BioMarin. I think you have invested in our community and done an amazing work, and I really look forward to continue our partnership. I know that you are investing more in the future as well, so thank you very much. Thank you. I fully support this.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Kurtz, comments.
Thank you. Appreciate BioMarin being in our community. We are seeing that you have changed with the times and still continuing to bring people into work. It's a credit of your business model and of the employees and your flexibility, as well as changing the campus and really creating a campus that the employees feel comfortable coming to work and supporting our community. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hill, comments?
Thank you, Mayor Kate. As it relates to this development agreement between the City of San Rafael, the community, as well as BioMarin, this has worked, I think, well in both directions. So I appreciate BioMarin's continued partnership. There are things that show up in the development agreement that don't show up. I wanted to mention one of them, which is the continued investment in the buildings and facilities at BioMarin that expand the number of employees, creates great benefit. We're also just appreciative for the branding that a very wonderful brand is right at the gateway of our city. Most recently has invested in beautifying the campus, which is very visible. And we're looking forward to what the end of the development agreement might be. This is wishful, but I'm looking forward to what might be built at 999 3rd. So thank you for the opportunity to amend it to what will work best for the community and for BioMarin.
Thank you. I think I was on the Planning Commission when this originally was developed, so BioMarin has been a partner in investing in our downtown for a long time. And it's interesting because the 3 items that you're having us look at, I remember talking about those at, well, the first 2 anyway, and I'm glad that we will be able to soon be able to return Mahone Creek on the other side back to its intended purpose, and appreciate the fact that BioMarin did attempt for a decade, for a long time, to have the access on both sides, and I know it was ongoing. There were some issues that continued to arise, so I'm fully supportive of that. And then the conference public facility, again, thank you for that, and I do agree that for all the reasons, you're a single tenant, and it's just the use has changed, as Vice Mayor Kurtz has said. So, and of course, the parking lot, you can have that parking lot back. So, but I do appreciate the ongoing conversation. And as Councilmember Hill said, we want you to continue to invest and build in our downtown. You are an anchor to our community, and we really appreciate it. It has nothing to do with the staff report, but the Dine Around Town, I know it's not called that, but to your employees, that you offer the opportunity for them to go and eat downtown. So it's both employees having a reason to come out of the building into our downtown, and it's those touches that really show that you're a partner to our community. So thank you. I don't hear any other comments, so
Should I do?
Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
I'd like to make a motion to introduce the ordinance, waive further reading, and refer to it by title only.
A second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hill.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Kurtz.
Aye.
Councilmember Yedenskulati.
Aye.
Mayor Kate.
Aye, that motion carries 4-0. If the city clerk could read the title of the ordinance, please.
An ordinance of the City of San Rafael adopting the First Amendment to the Development Agreement, DA 26-001, between the City and California Corporate Center Acquisition LLC, ordinance number 1982, to remove requirements for park and conference room access and auxiliary parking for the general public, APN 013-021-34, 35, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, and 55.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We'll move on to our next item, which is a community development block grant.
Yes,
Councilmember Yedenskulati, go ahead.
Yes, so I would like to recuse myself under the Political Reform Act. I work for Marine Center for Independent Living, and is part of this next item, so I'll recuse myself.
Thank you. Alexis, are you ready? You let us know when you're ready, and we'll turn it over to you.
Okay. All right, I think we're up and ready to go. Good evening, Mayor Kate and City Council. I'm Alexis Kaptanian, Housing Manager for the City of San Rafael. And I'm here tonight presenting the Community Development Block Grant funding recommendations for 2026 and 2027. So the Community Development Block Grant Program is a federal program that provides funding for affordable housing construction and preservation, infrastructure and community facility upgrades, and supportive services that primarily benefit low and moderate income households. The city has entered into a cooperative agreement with the County of Marin, authorizing the county to manage CDBG funds on behalf of the city of San Rafael. Under that agreement, Marin County is divided into 3 planning areas, including San Rafael, Novato, and countywide. And the funding is divided based on a formula across the 3 areas, based on factors such as population, overcrowding, and poverty. So this year, you can see on the screen the funding that came in from the federal government was a little over $1.6 million. After administrative costs, that left about $1.3 million for program activities. And then the San Rafael planning area receives a little over 39% of that funding. So this year, it's about $508,000. So the process for allocating these funds on an annual basis is that the San Rafael City Council submits recommendations for its portion of funds to the countywide priority setting committee, which is a committee made up of city and town council members, a county supervisor, and community members representing protected classes under fair housing laws. Our San Rafael City Council member Rachel Kurtz currently serves on the priority setting committee. The Priority Setting Committee, in turn, provides recommendations for the 3 planning areas to the Board of Supervisors at Marin County, and then the board reviews recommendations from the Priority Setting Committee and forwards its recommendations to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for authorization. So the recommendations that you are reviewing tonight are based on review and scoring by a subset of the Priority Setting Committee as well as county staff. The Priority Setting Committee works with county staff to evaluate applications received based on national program objectives and also locally established funding priorities. So some of the priorities include supporting protected classes under federal fair housing laws and supporting low-income persons. We also have priorities established by the committee that are specific to certain categories. So under housing, family housing, and land trust models in Eastern Marin that provide homeownership opportunities are both priorities. And then under public services, children, youth, and parent support services, as well as housing support services. This year in particular, project readiness was a key criteria for our evaluation team. And this is because the federal government has a requirement that a grantee's unexpended CDBG balance must not exceed 1.5 times the annual grant. The county did not meet this threshold last year and is projected to miss it again in 2026. This is because there were some projects that were awarded funding that have not yet spent their funding, and also because there was an unanticipated windfall from 2 affordable housing projects that were previously funded and had a cost-sharing agreement. So when they were sold, some dollars came back to the county. So the county is currently working with the federal government to develop a plan to spend down the excess funds. This is important because not meeting the timeliness standard can result in increased oversight and monitoring by the federal government and potentially a grant reduction in the case of repeated failures. So because of this, county staff are prioritizing project readiness for this cycle, and they limited funding recommendations to projects that have demonstrated the ability to move forward immediately based on criteria, including that the projects have their planning entitlement in place, they have funding that's secured, they have a proven track record of successfully administering federal funds, including complying with labor standards, and they have past responsiveness in completing federal environmental reviews, also known as NEPA. So getting into the allocation recommendations, I just want to note that there are some requirements by category for the $508,000 available to San Rafael. Of the total of funding available, per federal government regulation, a maximum of 15% can be provided to the public in the public services category. So this year, that's about $95,000. A minimum of $203,000 must be spent on housing, and then the remaining $210,000 approximately can be spent on either housing or community infrastructure and capital projects. So getting into the recommendations, there were 4 projects that applied for housing project funding from San Rafael, and staff is recommending funding for 2 of those projects, totaling about $203,000. That includes, these are both countywide projects that result in units or services that are available to our San Rafael residents. So the first project recommended for funding is Eden Housing's Oak Hill Apartments. This is construction of 115 units of affordable rental housing serving low-income households. And then the second project is the Marin County Home Rehabilitation Program, which provides no interest deferred loans to rehabilitate low-income owner-occupied homes countywide. So things could include roofing, repairs, plumbing, ADA accessibility modifications, et cetera, that help homeowners stay in their homes. In the capital improvements category, the county received 10 applications, and staff are recommending 2 of the projects for funding. One is the New Beginnings Center infrastructure repairs. So Homeward Bound is working on critical repairs and upgrades to Marin County's largest emergency shelter located in Novato, including roof replacement, interior-exterior painting, bathroom safety improvements, and installation of an emergency backup generator system. And then the second project is the Pickleweed Preschool Community Infrastructure Project. So this is improvements to the outdoor learning environment at Pickleweed Preschool, located in the Canal neighborhood, serving approximately 68 children each year through a free state-funded early childhood education program designed for low-income families. And then finally, the public services category. This is on a 2-year funding cycle, so we are in year 2, and all of these programs on the screen have been recommended to receive a second year of funding based on performance and compliance, including fair housing counseling and education, which is fair housing funding is required by the federal government. And then also legal aid of Marin's, providing legal advocacy, education, and outreach to prevent eviction and housing discrimination for low-income tenants. The Marin Center for Independent Living RAMP, Residential Access Modification Program, providing home modifications such as ramps, grab bars, and stair lifts to increase accessibility and housing stability for residents with disabilities. Make It Home's One Cozy Bed, which distributes beds and bedding to vulnerable families transitioning into permanent housing. And then finally, the Pickleweed Preschool, which again provides affordable early childhood education for children in the Canal neighborhood. So that's an overview of the funding recommendations. We're recommending adopting the resolution recommending CDBG project funding for fiscal year 2026-2027 to the Marin County Board of Supervisors. The City Council can approve alternative allocations. You can shift funds within categories, but the public services category cannot exceed $95,000 per the federal cap. That concludes my presentation, and Lily Thomas and Chris Miranda are joining me tonight via Zoom. They're both from the Marin County Housing and Grants Division, and we are available to respond to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexis. I'll see if there are any questions. Vice Mayor?
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay, Councilmember Hill.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I do have some questions, and it might be helpful to note that they might be best answered by our county partners. So my question is, because that you had indicated, Alexis, that some of the funds were not spent. Is it correct, because I read this in the paper, that that there was challenge in finding federally qualified contractors that could respond? Is that accurate to this instance?
I
can respond to that.
Great. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, so it's a combination of the 2 factors. So one, we have projects that were previously funded who were having trouble with the procurement process. Others, just getting contractors out to areas of West Marin. Contractors just did not want to bid. The other thing was the $1.2 million, which was quite a bit of funds to receive. Our average allocation is about $1.5 million to receive unexpected program income from the sale of those two properties actually was the biggest factor that basically set us back for timeliness this year and last year.
Thank you. And then a follow-up to that, because of that, of those challenges, will that influence how we might allocate in the future to make certain that we can get properly spent down? It sounds like there are some consequences if we can't properly spend the funds.
Yeah, so what we're doing is we're working on project readiness. So we are primarily focused on projects that are shovel ready, ready to go, and are able to spend the funds within a 1-year time frame. We are digging into each application just to evaluate them, ensuring that they're able to meet that timeliness requirement. For existing projects that are in the pipeline who have already been allocated funding but have not spent down any dollars, we are working with them to ensure that they are meeting those timeliness requirements, reporting, and timely spending. Projects who are not able to spend in a timely manner, we are issuing out 30-day notice and workout plans to work with them on getting those dollars out the door. Projects who continue to experience delays or issues, we may eventually need to reprogram those funds and take it back to the PSC and the board for the final recommendation and approval of reprogramming those dollars. And that would be done in a public hearing setting.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you. I don't have any additional questions at this time, so I'll open up the public hearing. If you'd like to provide public comment on this item, now is your opportunity. I don't see any public comment. I will close the public comment and bring it back to the council for additional comments. I'll start with Councilmember Hill, because I know Vice Mayor is on the committee. Any
Thank you.
additional
Well,
comments?
having served on the priority setting committee, I appreciate the full explanation, Alexis. I know that there are an amazing number of constraints to thread to ensure that all the areas get proper allocation, that we're not going below 15,000. So I looked at what the funding allocations are, and I understand that the county does a lot of work to ensure that all those eyes of the needles are threaded correctly. So I'm looking forward to approving this. These are very critical dollars to the nonprofits that receive these and the community members who benefit from them. It is encouraging to see that federal money is still flowing, and I look forward to a day when more dollars flow through. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor.
I wouldn't necessarily say flowing, I'd say trickling. Also appreciate the work that the county has done to pull this together. It is not an easy task. There are so many valid, important projects. We wish we could fund all of them. There's very few dollars, and a lot of time goes into figuring out how best to allocate it. So thank you for Alexis. Thank you to Lily and her team and the work that's been done to pull this together again, and we hope more dollars will come forward in the future.
Thank you.
Would you like me to make a motion?
Yep, I just want to thank Alexis and thank you to our county partners. These are important dollars, and it looks like the recommendation before us stretches them as much as they can. So yeah, go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Adopt a resolution recommending Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, project funding for fiscal year 2026-27 to the Marin County Board of Supervisors.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hill.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Kurtz.
Aye.
Mayor Kate.
Aye, that motion carries 3-0. Thank you so much. Our next agenda item is reporting on vacant positions.
Mayor Kate, if I may just let Councilmember Yeden's-Galati come back in the room.
Okay. Go get her. Get her. Text her. Here she comes. All right, she's walking down. Our next is reporting on vacant positions, which is compliance with Assembly Bill 2561. See, Director Sanchez is here. I know we had this, I think we had this report out last year, right? Last year was the first year?
We did.
Okay.
Let me just try to share. Lindsay, I may need some help. To share it. Thank you so much. Sorry for the technical difficulty there. Thank you, City Clerk. Good evening, Mayor Kate, members of the City Council, Marissa Sanchez, Human Resources Director. And tonight, you are correct, Mayor Kate, I'm presenting you with an update on the city's vacancy report. So the purpose of the report is to comply with Assembly Bill 2561, particularly Section 3502.3. And with that, we're going to share the vacancy rates for each bargaining unit within the city today, share the city's recruitment efforts that we've made this past year, and also discuss some of the challenges and opportunities that we've faced. So just as a refresher, because of course, I don't think we all remember every single Assembly bill that comes to pass, a key takeaway of this particular Assembly bill, and in particular the Section 3502.3 that was added in 2024, is in order for agencies, it's a mechanism for them to publicly report on vacancies and hiring efforts on an annual basis at least. And so in this case, we do this before the adoption of the budget. It also requires agencies to identify barriers in hiring, retention, and recruitment practices. And it recognizes that bargaining groups have the right to present at this same hearing. So all of the bargaining groups were noticed and are available to present should they wish. It also requires, there's a more comprehensive reporting requirement for those agencies that have vacancy rates within their bargaining units that are at or above 20%. Fortunately for us, we're not at that level, so that's not a concern of ours at this time. And the legislator declared that high vacancy rates lead to heavier workloads, burnout, increased turnover, and of course that can negatively impact both our internal and external service delivery across all departments. So what we're looking at today is, this is information that is through March 31st of this year. Overall, the city's average vacancy rate is 8%, and that's exactly where we were at this time last year. So fortunately for us, as I mentioned, none of our bargaining groups exceed that 20% threshold. So on this slide here, what we have is we have each of the bargaining groups here within the city. We have the total of budgeted positions within each of those bargaining groups, and the positions that we have filled versus the positions that we have vacant. And then the last two columns gives us the percentage. So the last column is where we were back in 2025, and the column just before that is where we are currently. So there's a little fluctuation there between last year and this year with some of the bargaining groups, but overall, we're still looking at about an 8% average vacancy rate. So some of the recruitment approaches that we've taken this year that we're proud of is we have developed what we call a recruitment toolkit that our Human Resources Office put together this past year. And basically, it's a structured guidebook for our hiring managers that standardizes the recruitment planning across all of the departments for our vacant positions. We've also created a hiring practices policy that was implemented this past year, and this is to replace the former recruitment policy that was last updated in January of 2008. So there was definitely a need for an update. And this policy defines roles and responsibilities of city staff, and it details the hiring process. So we have been diligent in rolling this out across all departments, providing training to some of our newer hiring managers, and making sure that we're being consistent throughout the city. We also continue to expand our recruitment outreach efforts. We continue to partner with departments at community events and job fairs. We have dedicated social media outreach for vacant positions throughout the city. And then we have direct recruitment outreach for certain roles that we use. In particular, the LinkedIn Recruiter tool has been very productive for us. We're excited about that. And it's a tool that other professional recruitment agencies use, and so it's been very helpful for us. Some of the challenges and opportunities that we face this year, there's, like many agencies, there's always budgetary pressures that can sometimes impact our recruitments and our ability to backfill positions. Currently, the city has implemented a hiring freeze for non-safety and certain non-general funded positions, and this came into effect in January of this year. The hope and the plan is that with the adoption of the new budget, that hiring freeze will be lifted. And this was just a proactive measure to try to make sure that we were where we needed to be by the end of this fiscal year. HR is continuing to monitor the service impacts from those vacancies, and we are ready to go, geared up and ready to go as soon as we get the green light to start our recruitment processes again for all positions. There's still another challenge that we continue to face, is there's always competition in specialized fields like our public safety positions, our highly technical positions. It's a constant give and take. We are definitely in a better position, I believe, at this point in time than when we were with our prior MOUs and salary schedules that we had in place. I feel we are definitely heading in a positive direction, and our retention levels have demonstrated that. Something else that we're trying to just keep on top of is retaining our top talent, because unfortunately what has happened in years past is we hire the folks, we train them, and then they leave us for another agency. And so we're trying to figure out how can we keep them here. And we're offering more professional development and growth opportunities. And something else that we're looking to implement this next year is to develop a formal succession plan. I don't think that's something that's been in place for quite some time here at the city. And so that's something that the Human Resources Office is working on and hoping to implement for this next year. This report itself has no direct fiscal impact. It's strictly for informational purposes, just to present to you. So the recommendation at this point is just that you receive the staff report in order for the city to remain in compliance with Assembly Bill 2561. And at this point, I can take any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Director Sanchez. I'll see if there are any questions. No questions from the dais. I'll see if the public would like to comment on this item. If so, now is your opportunity. I don't see any public comments, so I will bring it back, and happy to comment. Thank you for bringing this to the, I know we're doing it because it's a state requirement, but I also think it's important to have the conversation so our community and we all understand where there are hiring challenges. And I really appreciate you walking through everything that HR is doing. You're definitely upping the San Rafael HR game. So thank you. And we hope those numbers continue to stay stable. I mean, we're well below the 20% threshold. So that I would entertain a motion on this item.
I have a comment.
Okay, go ahead, Councilmember Hill.
Thank you, Mayor Kate, for indulging my comments. Director Sanchez, thank you for that. And the one thing I want to call out is your testimony that the city's decision to invest in agreements that create an environment for attraction and retention. All those words that you had up there about what we could do are good, and the foundation for it is to make certain that we are competing to retain the very best talent. So thank you for supporting us that, as well as the assistant city managers and all staff who made certain that that was possible the other year. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, and thank you for the report. And as Mayor said, this was a requirement, but I'm going to use the platform. As we know, the number of older adults in Marin, and especially in in our direct area, of those over the age of 50 is a really viable group of people. But we need to look at open positions, whether it's job sharing, part-time, and different ways of recruiting. I think there's a lot of interest, both economically, but also in terms of building community and all different needs, that there is an opportunity there as well. So I really appreciate it and happy to make a motion when we're ready.
Thank you. Councilmember Micah.
I was just going to thank you for the report and make a motion, but
Yes.
Go ahead. Go ahead and make a motion.
Great. I'd like to receive the staff report providing an update on the City of San Rafael's vacancy rates in compliance with Assembly Bill AB 2561.
second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hill.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Kurtz.
Aye.
Councilmember Yeden Scolati.
Aye.
Mayor Kate.
Aye, that motion carries 4-0. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Director. So our next agenda item is the Marinwood Community Services District and San Rafael Fire Departments. And I'll turn it over to our city manager, Navazio, to kick it off. And I see there are a bunch of folks in the room, too, as well. Welcome, Chief Roman.
I'll just do a quick introduction to this item. This is also largely an informational item to bring the council and the larger community up to speed on an issue that staff has been engaged in and working on. It's an actual interesting segue from this last item because we did note in there, sometimes the impacts on service delivery from not just vacancies, but challenges in recruitment and retention. That's particularly true in our public safety and in the fire services in particular, where we operate essentially a service delivery model that requires a certain level of mandatory staffing. And I'll just hand this over by noting that you'll be hearing in the presentation in the staff report that as it relates to fire and emergency medical services in the north part of San Rafael, the city for decades has been partnering with the Marinwood Community Services District under agreements to ensure that the two agencies are able to work together to efficiently and effectively provide these services. The goal of doing that becomes increasingly challenged, as we note in the staff report, as again, the labor pool becomes very challenging. Evolution of fire and emergency medical services, increases in demands for services, not just from growth and development, but also the point, aging population and all the things that drive service delivery calls. So we've been working for some time on exploring how to ensure that our current service delivery model is as effective as it can be, and also looking at opportunities to potentially refine that and improve that going forward basis to meet the needs of the community and our neighbors immediately to the north. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to, I believe, Chief Roman, who will set the table for tonight's presentation. And I am going to note that we are also joined in the audience, nominate your name, Eric, the General Manager from, from the Marinwood Community Services District. I appreciate his partnership on this and joining us this evening.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Abe Roman, your fire chief. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight and be able to present. I am joined by my members of my command staff who will be assisting in the presentation and will be available to answer any questions as we do this presentation. Tonight, we are here to provide an overview of long-lasting partnership between City of San Rafael and the Marinwood Community Service District for the delivery of fire and emergency medical services. The relationship has served both communities well for many years, built on a shared commitment of public safety and effective service delivery to Marinwood and northern areas of San Rafael. As we move forward, however, we've seen increasing service demands, evolving industry best practices, and ongoing fiscal pressures that are challenging the sustainability of our current model. These factors have led us to take thoughtful and proactive look to how we can continue to provide the highest levels of service to the communities. This evening, we will provide historical context of our shared services arrangement, outline operational realities of what we're facing today, and present the framework of a potential incremental transition toward more comprehensive and sustainable regional fire and EMS delivery model. At this time, I'd like to turn my presentation over to Battalion Chief Hamilton, who will provide a brief history on our relationship with Marinwood and how our partnership has evolved over the past several decades. Our goal tonight is not only to inform, but also to engage. We are seeking your feedback on the proposed framework as we consider the next steps in strengthening and modernizing how we serve our community. Thank you, and we look forward to the discussion.
Hello, Kyle Hamilton, Battalion Chief. So the Marinwood Fire Department was established in 1960 as a department within the CSD of Marinwood. They operate out of a single station at Miller Creek Road. 9 firefighters, one fire engine, which is a city engine, one type 3, which is more of a wildland-based fire engine. Contracts with the County of Marin to provide fire protection service to CSA 13 and other county properties. It's overseen by the Marinwood Fire Commission, Marinwood Board of Directors, and it's primarily funded through property tax and contracts for services. You can see on the map there, their district and are the northern part of Santa Fe and the southern part of Novato there. And then here's a map of the whole battalion and response area from the bottom of it, which is Larkspur Central Marin Fire, and then all the way up to St. Vincent's there. So moving on, as you know, San Rafael Fire Department, been around since 1874. We operate out of 6 stations across San Rafael, 2 staffed with 2 full-time ambulances, 73 sworn firefighting personnel, 8 Type 1 fire engines, 1 Type 3, 1 Type 6, which is a smaller wildland type fire engine, 6 ambulances, 2 ladder trucks. We also contract with the County of Marin to provide fire protection services to CSA 19. We provide EMS services to all of San Rafael, Marinwood, CSA 13 and 19. Historical agreements. So in 1973, we entered the first agreement with Marinwood, the JPA. We agreed to drop boundaries, and Montmarin became the primary response area for Marinwood Station 58. In 1979, we expanded that agreement to include other areas of northern San Rafael as mutual cooperation increased. In 1994, there was a study done that showed that the response time to the northern part of San Rafael was adequately served from Station 58. That study led to the closing of Station 53, which used to be on Joseph Court. We used the 9 positions, 3 people on duty per day. 2 went to a new ambulance that we staffed at Station 56. And then the 3rd position, through the JPA, we had funding to staff Marinwood's 3rd firefighter. I skipped ahead there. Using the salary savings, San Rafael for the first time pays Marinwood $180,000 at the time to completely cover the cost of adding a 3rd firefighter. And then this is the new JPA states, it is the intent of the city and district to ensure that coverage of the Marinwood Fire Station will become an integral part of the overall San Rafael system of fire station coverage. So from this agreement in 94 until today, this has maintained 3 fire engines north of Portiswell Hill, north of Lincoln Hill. In 1998, we increased the JPA to $224,000 plus CPI adjustments. In 05, that number peaked out at $392,000. In 2010, the city and Marinwood conduct a joint study to determine and evaluate the current model and make sure it's fair. The study recommended Marinwood and San Rafael create a regional fire authority, but if not possible, consider an option where San Rafael provides services to Marinwood under contract. And then it also recommended that San Rafael continue paying for 3 additional firefighters minus services San Rafael provides to Marinwood if the current model was kept. In 2014, the city of Marinwood entered a new agreement, which included a boundary drop, Marinwood's coverage of areas of northern San Rafael. No payments are made in this new agreement, and the city instead provides additional resources to Marinwood. This is referred to as the Shared Services Agreement, and it's still in effect to today. In 2018, the fire chief of Marinwood retired, and we amended that agreement to include chief officer services in exchange for roughly $100,000 per year. The current shared services agreement, the key components are either agency will dispatch the closest available resource, regardless of jurisdictional boundary. We provide additional resources as necessary. Marinwood responds to San Rafael as needed. We provide chief officers, voluntary exchange of personnel. We provide Marinwood with paramedic support, training, and equipment, and cover and pay for dispatch services for Marinwood. And now I'm going to turn it over to Jason Hatfield, EMS Chief, Battalion Chief Fire.
Thank you. All right, good evening. Thank you. So in 2024, our department conducted a standard of cover study. This is something that's kind of standard within the fire industry, generally done at certain intervals, 10 years or so. What this study did was it helped provide some analysis on possible and proposed growth that our department might be facing, our city might be facing in the future. It also provided some analysis on how our response or our deployment might change, depending on growth and also depending on our relationship with the Marinwood Community Service District. So this map depicts the San Rafael portion of Marinwood's first-in response area. So kind of looking at the entirety, the black lines indicate Marinwood, Engine 58's total response area. You can also see kind of in the lower left corner, Station 56 or Engine 56's response area. So in total, you can see that they respond to a geographically significant portion of the city of San Rafael. It's comparable to other response districts like Zone 56, Zone 52, things like that. Couple tables here. I'm going to look at some service demand analysis that was in the run study. So kind of direct your attention to the table at the top, far right-hand column. That is the number of calls that each one of our stations responded to in 2023. And you can see in the bottom right-hand corner that Engine 58 responded to over 900 incidents within the city of San Rafael. Okay. Again, so that's comparable to like Station 54, Station 55 that responded to just over 1,000. So not only are they helping us protect a significant geographical portion of the city, but they're also responding to a significant portion of incidents within that area. And like I showed on the previous slide, Marinwood's response zone is actually quite large. So when you take into account their total call volume, this is just the call volume associated with runs in that pink area within the city of San Rafael. They're actually one of our busier engine companies. They're right up there with Engine 52, Engine 56, one of our busier resources. Bottom table is a little bit more complex. That's depicting what we call the effective response force. So that's going to vary on which type of incident we're responding to. But I'll kind of go down to the area on the left-hand side where we see 12 to 17 firefighters. That's generally the more complex incidents. Those are structure fires, vegetation fires, vehicle accidents. The percentage, if we only have San Rafael engines responding, so not including Marinwood, we're only able to deliver an effective response force 4% of our city. With the addition of Marinwood, we nearly triple that. We over triple it to 14%. So again, if you kind of remember back on that map, 58, they border Zone 56, they border Zone 57. So for those larger incidents, they're our second due, they're our third due. So they're kind of integral in those larger incidents. Oop, I think I went the wrong way there. Okay, this map, it looks at call data, and this is over a 4-year period, kind of a heat map. So the darker areas on the map depict areas with the highest call volume. So kind of in the southern portion, you can kind of see zones 51, 52, 54. And as you would expect with the density, there's a lot of calls in those areas. So you see the darker browns. If you look kind of in the upper portions, that's particularly in the eastern side, you see some of those dark, I guess they're hexagons. You see those as well. So we have some busy areas that Marinwood's helping us protect. This is kind of off of Smith Ranch Road, Silvera Parkway, Contempo Marin, by the airport. It's a busy zone as well. Okay, this is just a little bit of a summary. So kind of in summary from the previous slides. So Engine 58, it's our first due resource to a significant portion of the city of San Rafael. And not only just geographically, but in regards to call volume as well. I'll get into a little bit. There was some information on that slide pertaining to our medical response, so I'll get into that on this slide. Current challenges, so as Director Sanchez noted, the recruitment and retention, particularly in the public safety realms, has been very challenging in the last several years. Marinwood has had the difficulties, as has every other fire department really in the region. Just like the San Rafael Fire Department, they strive to have a crew of 3 people on the fire engine every day, and they also strive to have at least 1 paramedic staffed on that engine. There's been some funding challenges, as Chief Hamilton depicted in some of the agreements that have occurred over the years. That's created some financial challenges to provide those competitive packages to attract and retain firefighter paramedics. And then coupled with full staffing at Marinwood is currently 9 positions. 2 to 3 injuries, coupled with 1 or 2 vacancies, and their workforce is down to about 50%, which is where it's currently at. Which I know we have Engine 58 here tonight, and we appreciate everything they're doing to continue staffing, the fire station as well as the SRFA as well, chipping in to make sure we can get adequate numbers working at that fire station every day. And with that, turn it over to Thomas Well.
Good evening, Mayor Kate and members of the City Council. I'm Thomas Wong, Senior Management Analyst of the San Rafael Fire Department. Thank you to Chief Hamilton and Chief Hatfield for providing context and background for tonight's presentation. The proposed strategy toward a comprehensive regional service delivery model contains 3 distinct phases. Phase 1 would amend the current shared services agreement. More details regarding that proposal will be discussed in a few slides. Phase 2 would entail the Marinwood CSD paying San Rafael a fee-for-service to staff Station 58 with San Rafael firefighters. Current eligible Marinwood firefighters would be offered employment in San Rafael, and importantly, San Rafael would be responsible for staffing the station 24/7. Marinwood CSD would pay San Rafael a fee-for-service based on funding currently available to the District for Fire Service, with San Rafael contributing the balance. Negotiations are ongoing for this phase, with an anticipated start date for a new agreement of July 1, 2027. There are numerous considerations to be resolved, including but not limited to meeting and conferring as necessary with impacted labor groups and discussing with Marin County Local Agency Formation Commission, or LAFCO. Phase 3, which is consistent with recommendations from LAFCO and other past studies, would include both parties working toward a long-term, sustainable, comprehensive regional service delivery model for EMS and fire services. This phase could start concurrently with Phase 2, but would not be completed until after Phase 2 is implemented. Here are some of the benefits to San Rafael from the 3-phase strategy. Continued stability and high level of service that San Rafael residents and businesses expect. Significant short and long-term savings versus building and staffing a new fire station in San Rafael. The proposed amendment ensure that the San Rafael Fire Department is prepared to handle the expected increase in call volume from substantial entitlements in North San Rafael, most notably the redevelopment of Northgate Mall, which may include up to 1,400 new living units. And as discussed earlier, paramedics on fire engines are critical to ensuring advanced life support resources can reach patients as quickly as possible. These proposed phases will help address staffing issues that have limited Marinwood's ability to provide ALS care to those in San Rafael. Here is a project timeline to help frame the 3 phases. We anticipate bringing Phase 1, the proposed amendment for council consideration, in June, with an effective date of July 1st, 2026. The next 10 months would then be used to work on Phase 2, the fee-for-service contract. And pending City Council approval will go into effect July 1st, 2027. And as discussed, some aspects of Phase 3, the comprehensive regional service delivery model, could occur concurrently with Phase 2. It's important to note that each phase has been proposed in such a way that they could continue without disruption to service, even if the next phase is delayed. For example, if Phase 2 fee-for-service is not completed by July 1st, 2027, which we'd hope is not the case, Phase 1 is already set up to continue indefinitely with payment escalators from the city to Marinwood built in. So focusing on Phase 1 here, key proposed points from the proposed amendments to the shared services agreement for fiscal year 26-27 are listed here. What we are sharing are proposed amendments, and negotiations with Marinwoods are ongoing with additional input from City Council today. Key changes to the current agreement include Marinwood no longer paying the city for chief officer services, which currently costs the district about $116,000 annually. The city contributing $350,000 to Marinwood in fiscal year 26-27, increasing to $500,000 in fiscal year 27-28, and then adjusted annually at a rate tied to an inflation index. As discussed earlier in the project timeline, the hope would be Phase 2 starts prior to the $500,000 payment in fiscal year 27-28, but it is included in the agreement in the event that Phase 2 is delayed. And the proposed amendment also includes both parties committing to Phase 3, moving towards a comprehensive regional service delivery approach. All other aspects of the shared service agreement and Chief Officer's First Amendment would remain unchanged. Those items outlined by Chief Hamilton earlier remain key to the agreement to ensure the highest level of service to both San Rafael and Marinwood. That takes us to our final slide, where staff recommends that the City Council provide feedback and policy direction regarding a proposed operational and fiscal framework, and direct staff to continue negotiations with Marinwood CSD and return with a finalized agreement for council consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent presentation on a complicated and long-running topic. I will start with questions. Do you have any questions? Sure, go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Okay. Can you bring back the slide with the different recommendations, or the steps? It was this, I think, the second to last slide. I think that one. Right, okay. Nope. Back, yeah.
Oh, the timeline. Back.
Yeah, that one. Okay.
Ooh.
Okay, good. So I just want to walk through a little bit of the steps. I mean, this is all like a huge bowl of spaghetti for those who have not been in the weeds of it. And so I have a bunch of different questions that I just want to make sure we go through, mostly from make sure the community understands, the public understands sort of where we're going with this. So the city will contribute $350 to Marinwood to augment existing fire services. Now is that amount specifically for bringing the current staffing at Marinwood to the level that San Rafael is at? Do we have discretion over that, or is that strictly going into the fire services budget, or is that directly to salary?
I'll try to answer that and may defer to the Community Services District General Manager. This is approximately the funding level that Marinwood has indicated they would need to, I would say, take a significant step towards bringing compensation up, basically addressing recruitment and retention needs within the district. I don't believe it would, in this first step, necessarily bring the two agencies to parity in that regard, but that is, by definition, would happen in the second phase, which is should we proceed to basically combining Marinwood Fire Department and San Rafael Fire Department into one entity.
But our expectation would be, or the thought at this point, is that would start to bring them up to a level of parity.
That's the hope.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I support definitely moving forward on a more sustainable, this regional model, but I want to acknowledge the concerns around, and clearly over the decades, it's hard to imagine, but over the decades that there have been these conversations back and forth and adjustments made, I want to ensure we're not going down a path of a temporary fix. And how do we, it's the way it's baked right now and looks at is proposed right now is a long-term solution, to really get to a long-term solution. But I'm curious if that was the conversation decades ago, was also presented as a long-term solution and it didn't work. And I want to make sure that as we're going forward with this into phase, today we have phase 1, 2, and then 3, and hopefully that's just phase 1 and we get there with phase 2 as that collapses to phase 3. Leaving that there's no long-term, there is a question in here, how do we prevent that? How do we prevent not losing this momentum and commitment to phase 3?
Let me take a stab at that, and then we'll invite Chief Roman to add, and there's also a couple extra microphones. From my understanding of some of the history and the discussions we've had, I think one thing that's, I would say on this, and then I'll defer to the experts, is we have a current shared services agreement, and then there's studies, LAFCO studies, coverage studies that said you really should look at a regional solution. Getting from what we currently have to that long-term solution is really challenging, right? That's a huge leap. I don't know that it was intentional, but where we are kind of landing with this framework, I think it's important that, phase one would be to tighten up the agreement to address some short-term operational and staffing needs. Phase two actually would be a essentially merger and consolidation of the two fire departments, but under a contract for services where Marinwood still has responsibility for fire services, but contracting with the city. That step theoretically gets you to a consolidated fire services. The third phase that's contemplated here is really less operational and less boots on the ground. It's what's the right structure so that how many entities are responsible for fire services in that geographic area? How is the property tax allocated? How are the fire assessments allocated? And it really gets into the governance and long-term financial sustainability of the model. But I would just say that it's the second phase, it's the bridge that I think allows us to get there incrementally, but not waiting until phase three to actually address the needs on the service delivery side. Your second part of the question is a little bit more complicated, which is, how do we ensure, given where we're at, and if the council is supportive of this framework, how to make sure that we're staying on it. It's really just, in some ways, a matter of trust between the parties that are negotiating in good faith. I think we've made some significant progress in a relatively short amount of time, at least with the reset of this issue. That second year of the amended shared services agreement, in a way, provides an incentive for both parties to keep working at it. It's been represented to us that, the Marinwood Community Services District has been and continues to be interested in getting out of the fire services. We're exploring a path to do that also meets the needs of San Rafael and our residents and does it in a way that is both financially and from a governance and operational standpoint sustainable.
Great,
But
thank you.
anything?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I could express any more as eloquently as city manager here. But yeah, what we can guarantee is that from the beginning, we set on this being a process and not an so the process of the overall goal and figure out what bits and pieces we could take care of this. Because we don't want it to be temporary. That's exactly what we don't want. We've had, in my short time here, I've heard lots of things about Marinwood over the last 30 years about that we started this and then start that. So we exactly don't want to do that anymore. We are searching for a long-term solution. And like Paul said, Eric did express on the long-term goal on having another approach on how we look at realization of the fire services here.
Great. I have a very nuts and bolts question that I think I have the answer for, but I'd love to hear professionally why can't, in San Francisco, there's, I believe, 4 to an engine. We have 3 to an engine. Do people have 2? Should we? We shouldn't have 2.
Absolutely, we should not have 2. 3 is a standard, 4 is optimum. For sure, and the standards of FPA recommend 4 on a company, but we should not have 2. And, unfortunately, we were in that situation that we didn't have a choice at this point.
I'm going to add something to that from a non-fire professional standpoint. So, more is better. I would just say that what's important is not how many staff are on any given apparatus, but that you have the right level of response to the incident that you're responding to, and it's how do you get there. Right. So, for medical call, sometimes just the ambulance, and kudos to the department. We've implemented a basic life support where EMTs are appropriate, right? Others where a paramedic ambulance is appropriate, but the fire engine is usually the first on the scene before the ambulance and paramedics arrive. In cities where we've had this debate over the 3 versus 4 in an engine, I just say the genesis of that is really when you're dealing with structure fires, and for firefighter safety, the concept of 2 in, 2 out, which is if an engine company with 3 arrives on the scene of a structure fire, very little happens until the second engine company arrives to provide the initial first, and then you get to 12 14 and 16. So with 4 and an engine, you have the minimum for a structure fire, or at least that's how the math used to work. The vast majority of our calls are medical, so we want to be careful not to respond, but I think that's sort of some of the issues associated with the 3 versus 4, and I'd probably get in trouble for saying anything that I shouldn't.
Yeah, I didn't want to open up a whole can, but I was just actually curious.
No, I mean, we refer to it as the effective firefighting force.
Yeah.
Okay, great. One concern that I've heard is whether this agreement alone solves our long-term service needs, and can you outline a broader set of actions the city is taking to ensure, and you sort of mentioned some of these already, to ensure we maintain service levels while also planning for future growth and growth in demand? We've heard that around a lot of our developments coming through.
Certainly, and we have we did create the standard of coverage report that we hope to present to you also in the near future, also as we start talking about impact fees or future tax measures. So we can't separate that into 2 different ones. This does fall within that and supports our growth for sure. Having an engine company in the north side there in the valley there, that third company is part of the overall equation as we look at the new developments in Terra Linda and Northgate for sure. So that equation was built in there with the assumption that engine 58 is the responding engine to that also.
And no surprise, I mean, because I see engine 58 all the time going up and down Las Colinas, so I'm very aware of how busy they are. As we move through this transition, as it's proposed, can you walk the public through the multiple strategies we're pursuing to ensure we continue meeting required fire and EMS service levels? We talked a little bit about this, including this partnership with our own staffing efforts, deployment, price planning, long-term infrastructure needs, so residents understand this is not dependent on a single solution.
Yes, yes, and yes. So this is, I think, one way to look at it is this is an attempt to kind of stabilize our current situation to ensure that we're able to provide the most effective level of service and response with the resources that we currently have. So you mentioned what are some of the other strategies that we're working on. So one is to, again, amend this services agreement to effectively strengthen Maroonwood's ability to be our partner in this. Within the department, we also have challenges of sort of increasing service demands. We have also our own staffing challenges at time. We mentioned this year the chief and his team launching basically a pilot program for basic life support. So we have EMT staffing, ambulances to respond to calls that don't require. And I think with the success of that program that we'd be happy to come back and report on, there's the potential to build on that a little bit. I would also note, at the risk of getting a little ahead of ourselves and previewing some of the work that's going into this next budget process, that even without the Marinwood situation, we are experiencing, due to many cases, increases in both injuries, but also sick, vacation, and training. We are seen a significant increase in overtime that's required within our own ranks to meet our minimum staffing, which is sustainable in the short run, but then leads to burnout and other injuries. And so we are looking at potentially recommending the addition of some positions to help address the burden of overtime within the department. I think the timing is good for all of these things to come together. And we're having ongoing conversations about things like equipment and infrastructure that's also very expensive and very costly, and probably necessary, again, as we're looking to some of the impacts of future development and the need to be prepared.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, we're doing all that. Actually, I wouldn't mind calling Chief, if you wouldn't mind just giving us a quick overview on the assisted living facilities versus hotels and that aspect of it. So a lot of it's gathering data now on what the calls we're actually responding to. Sorry, I didn't mean to call you like this, but if you would mind giving a quick.
Bob Sennett, Deputy Fire Chief. Good evening, everybody. Glad to be here. Glad to be supporting my team. As we know, there is significant development planned for Northern San Rafael. We've talked about some of the high-density projects this evening, as a matter of fact. Some of the projects that have recently been built in San Rafael are the assisted living facilities. These facilities are high call volume facilities for us. Some of them we respond to multiple times per day, in fact. So as more of these are planned, we're looking at significant increase in call volume. Chief, I'm not sure exactly what point you wanted me to make.
Just the difference between the hotels and.
Oh, sure. We've been doing a study between hotels and motels and assisted living facilities. And the call volume to the assisted living facilities is 3 to 4 times higher than that to the hotels. So we're continuing to look at how these different facilities impact our service delivery programs.
Can I just add to that I think maybe one of the things that we're not there but going to is, as we are looking to adequately invest in the resources we need, the other part is working with the data and the dispatch to make sure that the right response is provided for the right call, so that you're not having an ambulance and a fire engine company respond to a call that may not need it, because you're also taking it out of service, and therefore the next call that comes in behind it is a higher response time. So this whole idea of responding appropriately based on the call is the goal.
Really
And it makes your resources, stretches your resources a lot farther, which is important.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and just to add to that, we've had some preliminary work that the town Chief Hamilton or Hatfield made on outreach to the assisted living facilities and some kind of pre-training on that. So we had pretty good success. I think we probably could embark on a little bit more there, have a little bit more resources and education. One thing that we didn't know is those assisted living facilities have a revolving door as far as employees there. So really you just can't train somebody and just assume it's going to be done for the rest of the year. It really takes a lot of work to get somebody in there. So we're looking at potential steps in the future of getting maybe potentially our EMTs to go in there and do some pre-work also to assist in training and that kind of stuff.
What I've seen over my career with the assisted living facilities is that up until a certain point, they employed doctors and nurses, and they were able to handle a lot of the quote-unquote medical emergencies in-house, stabilize the patient, treat the patient, and keep them in the facility. What they've done as a cost-saving measure over the years is they've phased out their doctors and nurses, and they've gone to a 911 model. So whenever there's any type of a medical emergency, and even a lot of non-medical emergencies like lift assists, what they're doing is they're calling 911, and they're having us either treat the patient on site or transport. And I mentioned earlier lift assists. They're instructing their staffs, don't risk your backs lifting that patient off the floor, call 911, and the firefighters will do it for you. So there's been this significant shift in the way these facilities are operating in order to reduce costs. They're essentially overburdening the 911 system.
Okay, thank you. I have lots of comments, but I'll move on. Thank you.
Great, thank you for your questions. Councilmember Yeren Sculari.
Yes, thank you so much for all the work, and it totally makes sense to merge the services. So and thank you for the recommendations. I guess I'm just like listening to you right now with the lift assist and everything we are doing. So one of the questions I had, it was around the SAFE team. Do they go to any of the calls that we have that the fire department,
Yes, they can, but usually they actually generate calls for us also.
Right.
So they're really not set up to be able to do a lift assist or anything like that. So really, there's not really something that we could push that responsibility onto somebody else, other than a BLS unit where we have the 2 EMTs. And really, we have advanced from there. At the beginning of our pilot in January, we were just having them shadow engine company or as they were responding to calls. Well, we've advanced in the last month or so where now they're actually getting dispatched calls by the dispatch center. So it's been a proof of concept that really has gained a lot more than at the pace that I thought we were going to be on, to be honest with you. I thought we were looking another year before somebody was going to say, hey, why don't we just dispatch you guys? Because we know that this is a low priority call, so we're going to start dispatching you. So I feel like we're a year ahead of time at this point, and this is only, we're 4 months into it now? 5 months into it.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So I guess my biggest question is the paramedic parcel tax. And I know that it was recently, upgraded to like a higher tax. I believe it's 108 for San Rafael and 85 for Marinewood. So I'm just thinking about as we are, because the idea of the parcel tax is that then pretty much your services are free for our residents. So I'm just curious to see if Marinewood will be looking at to increase their parcel tax in order to, be at the same level than San Rafael. That's my first question, I guess.
I'm going to take an initial stab, and we can't speak for the Marinewood Community Services District. I don't know that that's necessarily in the plans in the short run. What I would say is, as we're envisioning this, as we move through phase 1 and phase 2, and we get to phase 3, we would essentially end up with a fire agency that would then kind of make that question moot, as opposed to still try to figure out how Marinewood and San Rafael Fire come to parity, not just on the service delivery and the compensation, but also on the taxes. They also have a fire assessment in addition to the paramedics. So it's just sort of a patchwork of funding. And as we transition to phase 3, which is why it involves other partners such as the county, there's a LAFCO process, is to sort of fix all of the underlying structural patchwork complexities that we're operating under currently.
Okay.
Thank you.
So waiting until phase 3, I think our residents probably will appreciate that too. And going back to the assisted living, I just feel like, and I'm going to use a strong word, I'm going to use the word like, it feels like a little bit of an abuse of our fire department for the work that they used to do before. So I wonder if you see anything at all that can be done on that specific industry. Because I know it's a free service.
So we have actually implemented a program to not only train them, but also to notify them for non-medical emergency calls, like a lift assist that we go to. Each facility is basically provided 3 of those a year, and after that, they are charged a fee. So similar to a false alarm or something that kind of may drain some of our resources. We are working with that, and I think we've been quite effective. We sent out letters kind of notifying these facilities of that change. And since that, I think we haven't sent out any, right? We haven't sent out any, which is a good thing. They took that to heart, and they've been calling us less for those type of calls.
Okay, that's great news. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hill, questions?
Thank you, Mayor Kate. Thank you to the whole team for the presentation. It went by very quickly, but I saw LAFCO consultation. So I'm curious what we anticipate is the consultation duration, what's involved in that, because I can imagine that it's give you a thumbs up on the plan, or is it a series of meetings and meetings and meetings? Just want to understand how much a LAFCO consultation costs in terms of time.
Good evening, mayors and members of the council. My name is Andrea Visheshwaran. I'm the Chief Assistant City Attorney. In terms of the LAFCO process, we don't quite know yet what that's going to look like. We do have open dialogue with LAFCO, and basically, as we start to figure out what the framework should be, we'll be working with LAFCO so that they can advise us as to whether it's a lighter touch from LAFCO versus a more full, robust approval. We just don't know at this time until we start to get into those details.
Thank you. I'll say that it's an unknown at this time, but I appreciate that it's something that we're contemplating. Yes.
Councilmember, I'll just note that, we've been, keeping LAFCO sort of in the loop, and we'll continue to, but in this three-phase approach that we're laying out, we believe that their involvement in the first phase that we're talking about for this year is really primarily informational. The second one, we want to make sure that we don't go afoul of any of theirs, so there may be some, to be determined. I think it's a safe bet that as we transition to third phase of not just the consolidation, but reimagining the governance structure for responsibility for fire EMS, that's where LAFCO is definitely going to be a major participant at the table.
Thank you. My next question is, I'm going to focus first on phase one, which I appreciate that approximately that's just 2 months out. So I appreciate that we're moving quickly. What would that look like for folks on the ground? Would that mean that there would be immediate, is it a hiring plan? Is it allowing staff to, because we have a certain number of folks that are hired by the city, and we have a certain number of folks that are hired presently at Marinwood. So are we talking about initiating a recruitment at that point to provide relief, or how would that look?
Well, the recruitment's still ongoing right now. We currently have a firefighter testing that I have a chief's interview this Wednesday for Marinwood. So that will continue. So it could take it could be both. It would be a lot of conversations. Like I said, we still don't have conversations with labor at this point. So during that point is where we would figure this part out.
Gotcha. So I heard recruit, is there any possibility if we got lucky that we could get a transfer from, say, another department? Is that plausible, or are we really looking only for
Actually, we have had several successes with that for sure.
Okay. And then the same thing with, as we progress, because what I heard the city manager describe is that we would be improving staffing, we wouldn't get to exact parity, but that in phase two, we would be looking at parity, and then we'd be looking to do, again, more recruitment and hiring to fill those positions to the right level.
Correct. And we've been, knock on wood, we've been fairly productive at attracting firefighters to come to work for us from other agencies.
And then my next question, beyond staffing, which is really critical, but are there any assets, any other apparatus that would need to be acquired as part of this?
Certainly, and as Chief Hamilton or Hatfield showed in there, they do have a Type 1 engine and Type 3, and that also needs to be negotiated. That'll be part of the conversation during actual negotiations.
Gotcha. And then going back to assisted living facility, it wasn't something that I had thought we were going to be talking about this evening, but building on Councilmember Jorans Galati's and the Vice Mayor's questions around assisted living facilities, is there anything that we would do as we look at other communities that have contemplated very similar scenarios? Is there anything we would contemplate that might be more aggressive, either in how we charge, or helping our businesses understand that this is not a free service, that this is something that they cannot just rely on the city to
certainly. So we are exploring, certainly on the tax measure, of being able to augment, knowing that those facilities do increase the call volume for sure. So seeing if there's any kind of adjustment that we could make during the tax measure, specifically around that. The other one is just seeing if there's any other opportunity to work with them long-term. Say if I pull a business license, that because I'm going to have those one of the facilities, it's part of that business license is that we actually have a program that they have to come every 6 months or something like that. Of course, we would have to establish that, but that then does give us a cadence on that touch to those employees every 6 months or every year or something like that. So really putting that responsibility on them, however we take a short responsibility of the training them. I don't know, what I'm afraid of is that if we just put this on them and not take the responsibility of the training part of it, that it'll go all sorts of different ways, and we'll wind up running calls on there. We do see that there is a dramatic change when we engage with them. The call volume goes down. So that's the important part of it. And I'm not sure if there's ever going to be a way that we automate that touch other than actually figuring out a cadence through there. And the way I see it is through a business license or something to that effect. Jason?
Yeah. Just, I think, important to point out, too, that, assisted living and skilled nursing facilities like they have legitimate needs of the 911 system. They house, patients that are infirm and require transport to the hospital. So I know we referenced kind of like our BLS program. So I think we're looking at ways to provide the appropriate resources to take care of the needs that they have, right? So that's part of it too, is, it's not always going to be, 2 firefighter paramedics on an ambulance to take care of that patient that might need a transfer to the hospital at some point during the day or over the next 8 hours. So those are some of the other things we're looking at.
Thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you. There are already excellent questions asked, so I just have a 30,000-foot level one, and I don't know if it's for the general manager. So we're talking how it affects the city of San Rafael, but Marinwood, CSD, otherwise known as Community Service District, so the voter, and that was voted in, as I understand, so I haven't heard how Marinwood itself, I know the board was talked about in the agenda, or in the staff report, and that they have to agree, but what about the voters? Is there a role for the voters as we pursue this? I don't know if that's for Eric. You're here, we'd love to hear from you. But again, just educating the community about, just grab that one. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor Kate. My name is Eric Drykos, and I, for the past 11 plus years, have worked as the district manager for Marinwood CSD. I've lived in the CSD for 15 plus years, so it is home to me and my family as well. To answer the question that you just asked, no, I don't believe that a matter like this goes to the voters. A recent example is how Mill Valley just completely consolidated into Southern Marin. That wasn't a ballot measure. That was a measure to be approved between the two agencies. So I'll leave it at that. I certainly have other things to say and some other brief responses to some of the questions that I've heard on behalf of our district, but for now, I'll just answer your question.
Go ahead. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's really helpful. But if you had other information that you wanted to add based on what you've just heard from the council?
Yeah, I tried to
go
jot
ahead.
notes. I apologize. I crashed your meeting late. I came
No.
straight from my kids' Little League game, which was happening in the rain. So I
Perfect.
appreciate
Glad
your
you're here.
patience.
Glad you're here.
Before anything else, I want to acknowledge, especially recently within the last year, there's been a lot of conversation around this topic, and it's really ramped up between our two agencies. And I really want to thank and appreciate and acknowledge City Manager Navazio, Assistant City Manager Angela Robinson, as well as Chief Roman and the Senior Management Analysis with Thomas Wong. Because they spent a lot of time sitting in rooms with myself, and I also, the Assistant City Attorney as well, has been, they've been very good, very open, very positive conversations. I know there's been a lot of, well, we've been doing this for 30 years, why is this any different? Because people change, boards change, council members change, city staff change, and this has picked up a lot of momentum and a lot of serious, very transparent, very open conversation between, in our staff and in closed rooms. So I really appreciate them for being very open and willing to engage in these conversations, and all of you for allowing them the direction to do that. In terms of some of the questions that I have heard, in terms of a long-term solution, is it just stop at phase one? I can speak on behalf of the district, and I like to think on behalf of our board when I tell you we've recognized for a long time that Marinwood CSD is a very small, very finite resourced agency. Doesn't have business in the fire business. It has become it's a very expensive industry to be in, and we do not have the resources to match. We recognize that what serves our community and our combined communities better is for our agency to fully dissolve in the long run our legal responsibility for fire by merging in or having a formal consolidation with a larger, better resourced agency. I've said this in a lot of different public meetings, not only our own. So I can assure you from Marinwood's standpoint, phase one is exactly that. It's phase one. We are looking towards what that end goal would be, and that is ultimately what we would like to achieve as a district, and I think that best serves our community, our residents, and our citizens. As I look at, I just want to see what a couple of the other things were here. I tried to jot notes the best I could, so bear with me for a second. In terms of that long-term solution, there's definitely been talk, and we've made very clear that to look at what a formal merger or consolidation, is a better term, might look like, that requires work from third-party studies, and those studies take time, and we've encouraged, and they've been very open and willing to saying, we don't wait until we get done with phase 1 to phase 2 to start that study. We can start that study immediately and involve the county because they're also a player in this. We serve the county unincorporated areas. San Rafael serves the county unincorporated areas, and starting that study so that it can really look at what would be the impacts on all sorts of levels. LAFCO is going to require a study like this. LAFCO was a good question. I cannot speak for LAFCO. I can tell you I've had a lot of conversations with LAFCO over the years. If you read the municipal service reviews, LAFCO fully recommends that we explore this and that Marin would find a way to consolidate into a larger, better resourced agency. So I think we would have a lot of support from LAFCO just in resources, making sure that we're following the steps they would need to see if and when it got to that point. So I feel good about working with LAFCO on that level. It does take some time, but this is something they've been ramping up for and preparing, and I think would be very excited to work on this with all of us, to be quite honest with you. As far as the paramedic tax was something else that came up, those are decisions that would obviously be made by our board, but I think City Manager Navazio touched on it really well when he stated, right now, San Rafael is the paramedic authority. They have the legal responsibility to provide paramedics to the larger region, which includes areas of the county and areas of Marinwood and Lucas Valley. We just put paramedics on our engine less than 10 years ago. Through agreements with the county, through the oversight from the city, from the oversight and EMS direction of the city, it allowed us to be able to provide a higher level of service, which we are committed to retaining and doing as long as we can afford to continue to do it, because that's also an expensive, highly competitive staffing environment. It's hard to be in, but this allows us to kind of keep it there. My point being is, if we are able to reach a larger consolidation. Right now, if you want to level out your paramedic tax, that's 4 ballot measures. You need one in Marinwood, one in Santa Venetia, one in CSA 13, and one in San Rafael. If a larger consolidation can happen, to City Manager Navazio's point, it becomes 1 ballot measure. Everybody has the 1 vote, so that helps to eliminate that. I know it was put on the ballot in Marinwood, I want to say the last time was before my time, sometime maybe around 2012. It did not pass. It would certainly be a conversation we'd be willing to have going forward and revisiting that and looking to put it back on the ballot to look at that, especially if we have this kind of synergy and momentum coming into what's going to become ultimately a better, even stronger fire service than it already is. I think they will recognize that you've been at the same level for a long time, and the level of services will only continue to increase and get better for them. So Marinwood would certainly be willing to have those conversations as well. I think those are kind of some of the notes that I was able to jot down. I would certainly agree with what Chief Roman said. Recruitment is ongoing. We are getting ready to enter into a next round of MOU negotiations with our labor force. When those are concluded, we will be able to refresh and update all of our postings that are out there with the updated compensation levels. That always does help to attract. We have been, I don't want to say lucky, but we've been fortunate in that we have been able to attract some leave shortly after, some don't, some stay. I've been managing for 25 years. That's the way it works. We recently had a good one who wound up accepting another offer shortly after to be a helicopter medic. I can't really compete with those types of opportunities, unfortunately, but I'm encouraged that we have somebody else in the pipeline, and we'll continue to recruit the best we can and have everything updated and put it out there the best we can. With that, I'm happy to take any real direct questions from any member of the council or the mayor.
I don't think we have any at this moment, but we appreciate, we do have one. You had another question. Okay, go ahead, Councilmember Hill.
Thank you for being here and making yourself available. That was really helpful to get that reassurance. Are there any scenarios, I know this is stretching out into the future, and it is related to the mayor's question around what might need to go to the ballot, but are there any scenarios, funding scenarios, where it might have to go back to the Marinwood CSD to increase assessment to match what the current funding levels are, or do you feel pretty comfortable that current assessment would be able to sustain what might need to be paid for in the future?
Which assessment are you referring to?
Well, just to fund the level of service that's proportional to what Marinwood would be paying in some future scenario in phase 2 or phase 3.
I don't necessarily think so. We have a special assessment already in place that bills by square footage. It has an annual escalator written into it that matches with CPI, so that automatically goes up. Paramedic is already at the cap, so that would have to go back to the voters. I wouldn't necessarily, our special assessment is probably one of the highest in the county right now, and I don't know that I would take it back to the voters. When it passed last time, it passed by 7 votes. Coming to the voters asking for increased assessments is always a risky proposition. So I think right now what we have is sustainable. This agreement kind of makes the level of service a little bit more equitable than when we first got into it in 2014. Chief Hatfield did a very good job of showing what the call volume is. Over half of our calls are actually coming into this city, and we've been able to keep pace to some degree, but fire service is very expensive service, and it's not just staffing that is expensive on it. You have very staff-related things like OPEB. We have, unaccrued, unfunded liabilities on that, or accrued unfunded. We have pension, but you also have a heavy capital investment. Fire engines have quadrupled in cost in the last 10 years. Equipment has become much more expensive. So it is an incredibly expensive industry to operate, which is why we recognize that, again, a district like ours, I can do some back of the napkin math and say, here's my anticipated revenue growth over the next 5 years. This much steeper line is the anticipated expenditure growth just due to how expensive fire is. And it goes well beyond just staffing.
Yeah, thank you. That validates, I think what you said validates what I was thinking, which is that it would be very difficult to go back to the voter and say, hey, let's do this again. If it was that close last time, I can only imagine what would be.
Well, I can reassure you in a little bit in that our current special assessment, our parcel tax, for lack of a better term, does not have a sunset date on it. It has to go through reappropriations every 4 years just so I can add it to my overall appropriations limit, but that's a simple majority vote that we've never had a problem passing, and it does have built-in CPI escalators into it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you so much.
I thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now open it up to members of the public. If you'd like to comment on this item, now is your opportunity. And you're welcome, but not required to say your name. What part of San Rafael?
It's me again.
Yeah.
Dave Funkelsrud. I live in Peacock Gap area of San Rafael, also on the Fire Commission. I know it's getting late. Don't want to add too much. I just really want to say thank you to Chief Roman and members of staff, and also to the council for hearing this, because we've been talking about it at the Fire Commission for quite some time. And I know it's a very complicated process, but the team has been very deliberate in everything that they've gone through. And I just want to tip the hat to them and say thank you to everybody for considering this.
Thank you, Dave. Anyone else? Yeah, sure. Come on.
I was remiss. I know I acknowledge a lot of people, but I absolutely want to acknowledge the Marinwood firefighters, because they've been working incredibly hard, for some of them for 20 plus years, but the last couple of years, especially with long-term injuries. Chief Hatfield touched on it very well. We have 9 people. If I have a couple out on injury and an opening, that's a third of our entire workforce. So I know a couple of them are in the back. Again, they serve in my community where I live as well. My office is right next door to theirs, and they're incredibly dedicated professionals. So I just certainly want to acknowledge them and all the work that they've put in, and stepping up and always being there and working way too much than they should. They have families and lives too. So I just want to say thank you to all of them.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, great point. Anyone else like to comment? Okay, I'm going to close the public comment and bring it back. Are there any additional questions before we get to comments? Okay, not seeing any. Why don't you start? Go ahead, Vice Mayor. Why don't you start with your comments?
I've been waiting for this night for a really long time. This has been a topic and a concern for me for at least 6 years, and for a number of people in representing North San Rafael. So I'm really happy we're here today. But I also recognize that both for the Marinwood firefighters, thank you for being here. It's a long night, and the North San Rafael residents, this is all about trust right now. I think we can deal with the operational, the details, but it's about trust. And I don't know for sure the history, but I think there were breaks in trust along the way and why potentially some of those relationships fell apart. So I really appreciate the thoughtful work that's gone into bringing this forward. This is clearly a complex issue with decades of history, operational realities, fiscal considerations, and most importantly, public safety at the center of it. And that's what drives all of these conversations is the public safety. I support continuing to move in this direction because maintaining an unstable model, which is where I think we're at today, serves no one, not San Rafael residents, not Marinwood residents, and clearly not the firefighters and personnel who are doing this critical work every day. At the same time, I want to acknowledge that change like this can create understandable frustration, uncertainty, and concern, particularly when trust may feel very fragile. I've heard those concerns, and I think they're valid, but the way you address them is by communicating, being transparent, and having that partnership that we've established already here today. And that's what's going to help us to continue moving forward. This can't feel like something being done to one agency or to the community. It needs to be built together, and that's what you've already started by these conversations. In city time or in government time, this is moving incredibly fast, right? And we know that. I mean, it's a whole different time model, but to talk about where we are today and we're talking about in 2 years or in even 3 years, that is incredibly fast. We're going to take this step. If we're going to take this step with everyone's support and direction, we need to do it thoughtfully, responsibly, and in a way that builds confidence that we're committed to a stable, long-term solution. And as you know, I've been really persistent on this topic for many, many years, and I will continue to ensure that we get to that long-term and the right solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Llorens Galati.
Yes, I just wanted to recognize everybody that is involved in these conversations. I love to hear, from Marinewood, from our department, and it seems that you are having like very good conversations, and this looks like a great plan. So I really look forward to welcoming all of you to the city of San Rafael, and keep up the great work and let us know how we can support you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hill.
Thank you, Mayor Kate. Thank you to all the command staff from the department. Also, my mind specifically, and my heart too, goes specifically to the firefighters at Marinwood for the service that you have delivered to all of our communities. That taking testimony from what I've heard today and in conversations outside of this room, that the human toll to make up the difference is superhuman. It's not fair. So I am glad that we are doing the right thing for the right people. Obviously, we want to make certain that folks of Marinwood and San Rafael are served adequately. I am glad that we have a short-term plan to get to the long-term plan. But ultimately, I want to make certain that the people that we ask to get on the truck every day are properly compensated and not overworked. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just add my thanks. So thank you, Assistant City Manager Angela Robinson-Pignon, for all the work that you've done. Chief Roman, BC Hamilton, Deputy Fire Chief Senate, hopefully I got all your titles right, BC Hatfield, Senior Analyst Thomas Wong, BC Alviso, and our Deputy City Attorney in the back, Andrea Vivishwara. This takes so many conversations, and Eric, thank you for being at the table for all of those. It is complex and nuanced, and there's a reason it hasn't happened overnight over the past couple of years. So the right people are at the table, and we know this is the first step of phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and we're going to get there. This is an evolving situation. It was I really appreciated how you laid that all out from the very first date, 1973. So, and I really appreciated what the city manager said, and I think all of you said it in slightly different ways, of having the right response for the type of call. And I think that's also really reflective of what is happening in the fire industry as a whole, so I love that North Star. And then thank you also, Councilmember Hill said it so beautifully, to the Marinwood firefighters for what you do every single day. I mean, we like to all think we have our individual ponds, but we really live in one big pond. So when one agency and department's doing well, it reflects well on all of us. So thank you so much. We are not making any decisions tonight. We are just providing feedback and learning a lot that we can also point the community to learn more. And so with that, I would entertain a motion on this item. And I know the Vice Mayor would not be denied making a motion on this one, so I'll just go ahead and ask you to make one.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion, provide feedback and policy direction regarding a proposed operational and fiscal framework, and direct staff to continue negotiations with Marinwood CSD and return as a first step with a finalized amended service agreement for council consideration and continued collaboration on the long-term goal of transitioning to a regional service delivery model.
Second.
It moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hill.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Kurtz.
Aye.
Councilmember Yadens Gulati.
Aye.
Mayor Kate.
Aye, that motion carries 4-0. Thank you all. Before we adjourn the meeting, we do have open time for public expression. This is any comments for anything that we did not discuss this evening. We are open up the public comment. You're invited but not required to say your name, what part of San Rafael you're in.
Hi again. Richard Falk, Loch Lomond. Just to give us a quick status update on I guess it's the density bonus plan high-rise project. I don't know what to call it. Needs a name. As I had mentioned in the previous meeting, Micah set up a meeting with a couple people, a senior planner and the assistant director. That was a couple of weeks ago. And next is I'm going to be meeting with the city attorney. And in parallel, I've already met with Mike McGuire's person on his staff locally. That's for the longer term. Well, it's for two things. For one, the longer term legislative changes, but it's also in the short run to get the what'd you call it, the legislative intent for the part of the law that's relevant that we're talking about. So anyway, so a lot of things moving, and this just takes time. And but I want to thank the city for cooperation in this effort. And I think using having the city attorney involved will save you a lot of money rather than having to go to the outside counsel all the time. So I think that's a good move. That's about it. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments? Not seeing any. Before we adjourn, as I mentioned earlier, we are going to adjourn in honor of Faye Diopol. So before we adjourn, I'd like to honor her for her exemplary service as a Marin County Superior Court judge. She left a lasting mark on our community. Judge Diopol lived a remarkable life of service with intellect, integrity, and a deep sense of humanity, always guided by an unwavering commitment to justice, fairness, and human dignity. She leaves behind an extraordinary legacy of public leadership and quiet compassion that will be continue to be felt throughout our community. We remember her with gratitude and adjourn tonight in her memory. This meeting is adjourned.